All right. Hey, what's up, students? Welcome, students of the game, to a milestone moment in the history of this academy. It's class number 20 at the Gaming Academy. We made it. We're here, and 20 sessions deep, and like a perfectly executed speed run, we're still breaking new ground. And guess what? Tonight, even bigger because not only are we live on YouTube, Twitch, we're also streaming on Facebook as well. So that's right. We're spreading faster than a broken hitbox on an old school NES game. So I want to make sure that I introduce everybody here on the chat or on the panel. Of course, I don't do this alone. I'm here with the crew tonight. And as always, I'll introduce them slowly but surely, one by one. And we'll start off with the Tragically Elite, a.k.a. Nick.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it
Hey,
going?
we're back. Number 20.
Yeah. Did it feel that it was fast?
Yeah, a little bit too fast. I want to say, like, it's one of those things, like, every week after we have our podcast and hang out, we kind of talk about it, like, okay, cool, we'll do this next week. It feels like it just went so quick.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it's been 20, because we do these minus around the holidays once a week. So this is like, 20 weeks worth of like stuff. And I wasn't there for all of them either. You were.
Yeah. No, and I had like technically I had a vacation. Like we were 2 weeks out, one because I was one away, and then I think you were out too the week before. So it just
Yeah,
kind of overlapped.
holidays, and then I had some stuff come up. I just had like last minute, like, ah, crap, I got to take care of this. But
Yeah,
still, I mean, it's a milestone, man.
that's pretty cool. And you know who has perfect attendance is always here. The teach, the man, the leader of the tech, the man himself, the Blazing Ace Nelson.
Seriously though, 20 shows, 2 hours a pop, and I mean honestly, just taking a look back at everything that we've done over these past 20 episodes, again, even considering the time off that we've taken,
Yeah.
I mean it legit feels like we have just like, you know, it feels like we hit not even I would say like we hit the end of Chrono Trigger, but no, it feels like we hit chapter 7. It feels like we hit rank 7 in God Eater, only to find out that, wait a minute, we're only like halfway done with the game, and there's this whole post game that like doubles the amount of content. So
I was gonna say, to resurrect what we were talking about a few weeks ago, it's like Super Ghouls and Ghosts. You think you're at the end, but no, the real game's starting now, man.
Oh,
right,
PTSD.
right,
Gosh.
we got more left in the tank.
See, with stuff like that, with games like that, I always thought, is this more value or did I just get tricked and thinking I was done?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
weird how
that's the correct answer. Yes.
yeah, man, it's tricky sometimes. Like we keep talking about New Game Plus, like when a game doesn't have, it's like, oh, that sucks. I only had 60 hours with this game. I really wish I could play again for another 80. Right? Really? How that
Yeah,
value? Do we really feel that way? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes those New Game Pluses absolutely matter, and how they're done matter a lot.
yeah. When is the game too long? Like
Yeah.
usually.
For
That's very
me,
interesting.
it was like the conversation around Near, when you can play it like so many different times to get so many different endings. It's like, I can't. I'll find the like endings that I want and then call it good there. That's too much
Mm,
for
mm.
me. Or something like, oh shoot, what was it? Like Persona 5, playing
Oh
Persona
God,
5 and then Persona 5 Royal, and then realizing like the New Game Plus on top of it. It's not a short game.
no. Well, I mean, I guess you can make it as long as you want to if you want to come. Like you
True.
beat like the initial ending, then you're like, I want to play more and get the other ending, right? I guess
Yeah.
that would be more replayability. You're
But
gonna
man,
say
like
something?
you're gonna be getting into Mass Effect later this year. It's like, who are you gonna
Oh
romance? You're gonna
God.
go Renegade or Paragon? Like that does matter.
All right. Well, here I have a question for you. So, if I play when I play Mass Effect, starting for the first one, are my decisions carried over to the second game and third?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Not every single one, but a fair amount, and some pretty big ones that do affect the story, or at least for someone like me who played it a fair amount. There's certain squad mates that, if they die in one of the first two games, will not be in the third. But if they survive,
Oh,
they
okay.
will show up in the later ones, and there will be either interactions or quests or stuff with them. That's one of the reasons that game is so beloved, is because it really is that BioWare, like the choices you make affect the story, and then
Yeah,
the story in the next one, and then the story in the next one. That's why
yeah.
something like, Dragon Age Veilguard was such a letdown for people. They're like, what happened to all my decisions?
Yeah, no, and also it was kind of like it still was technically marketed as a sequel, so like that's the expectation, right? That was met from that.
Yeah, I mean, it being a sequel and the time that had gone by since, I mean, me as a fan of it, I absolutely understand that all of it's not going to carry it over. But with the jump from 2 to Inquisition, you got to think about it. They made the keep specifically for that. They had a platform where you can input your story decisions, or at least the major plot points or romances, and then it would import into your game. So they had a platform already. That's one of the things people kind of toss their hands up about. Anyway, that's getting off the point. That's something Mass Effect, that's the reason we like it. And I think we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago. Mark Dara, one of the devs on it, he
Mhm.
was talking about he originally had done a pitch for the next set of Dragon Ages where they would have been done in succession. Same thing as Mass Effect, where it
Yeah.
could be developed concurrently, where they could have those stories like bit by bit go through. He's talked about that on his podcast. Definitely a watch if you're a fan of like Bioware games, just to hear like what could have been and the company deciding to go in a different direction.
Yeah, and I guess like one more point to this is like if your game is known to have those features in those beloved games that you made, just expect those are going to be the things that people will look for in a game that you've made. Like for example, Dragon Age Mass Effect. I would probably consider if Anthem was a success, they would do the same thing with that one.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that was a push in a little bit of a different direction for them, and honestly, that's I even said it when I think it was one of the people in chat last week. Which hello, chat, welcome. Not last week, but the week before. I apologize. They were asking me about Veilguard, about what I thought, and I said, as a game on its own, it's not a bad game. It's just not a Dragon Age
Yeah,
game.
yeah, no,
So
and
to
that's
your
kind of the vibe
point,
I got. Yeah,
yeah,
awesome. All right,
the
well,
things
we
that made
got
it good weren't there.
we got a lot to cover tonight, as always. Ace, we got some new content for the tech. What kind of teaser do you have for us tonight before we get to that?
Well, it's as simple as this. With Monster Hunter coming up on the horizon, like literally 2 weeks out now, it'd be a good idea for us to actually kind of broaden our horizons and take a look at some of its contemporaries and competitors, and see what makes what makes these different compared to the OG, or at
Mhm.
the very least, get someone interested in something that might help them work their way into Monster Hunter.
True, true, and competition does breed innovation. So, and
Bingo.
this is how we can get a wide variety of spin-off games like Monster Hunter and like God Eater, right? We have lots of spin-off of Souls-like games. That whole thing has been kind of a thing there. So it's good to see there's some competition out there at least. So, and I know Nick, you got some quick bites for us, especially with some heated news that I heard today. I want to chat with you guys a little bit more about that with Marvel Rivals. So I'm
Oh,
excited for that. But yeah, and as always, let's just get to our usual. And I have more crazy retro gaming ads to show you guys. So let's get to it with.
Yo, check this out.
That's not. I wish I had like a remix version of that. It'd be kind of funny. So,
We could probably
uh,
figure that out.
yeah, right. Yeah, we have an audio engineer here. So if it's your first time here, check this out. Is kind of like a variety segment, but this time we're on this trend of checking out cool retro gaming ads. So I wanted to share with you guys the memories, whether how crazy, how I don't know, adult, and also not family friendly ads to catch your eye back in the 80s and 90s. So I brought up a few each stream just because if we this could be a whole show if anything. So what do I have here on the syllabus? So right on the top of your heads, aside from the ones you've already seen already, do any ads just pop in your brain that you like recall opening up a Game Pro or EGM or anything like that?
mm.
I
Oh,
mean, the big ones for me were like big game changer ones. Like we already talked about like Sega and Nintendo, like
Yeah.
the console wars era. But I remember in my head when you say that, when I think about something that stood out, when we started jumping to 3D and seeing like the original Tomb Raider Lara Croft like
Oh,
ads. Like
yeah,
when
that'd
those
be
things popped out,
yeah.
like polygonal, like definitely not something we'd seen before in games, and definitely leaning into that. Like, obviously it's a chick Tomb Raider running around. It was a different kind of
Yeah.
era. It's like just that's all they put up there, and that's all I had to say of like these. Look at these 3D like graphics, aren't these amazing? Like points everywhere. Just
for
remember
sure.
seeing that in like a gaming magazine, just being like, oh, this is the next generation. Like those big leaps. Because
Yeah.
after that point, I mean, we've talked about it before on this thing. I mean, my background's in marketing, so like ads nowadays don't stand out as much to me. It's like multimedia stuff. So then when you ask that, that's what I think of. Just when it's like it was a game changer, something that really is like this is the new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise here. I mean, the first ones that really spring to my mind are like the 2-page spreads of Midgar from back when Final Fantasy VII came
With
out.
Cloud on his sword, like on the back of his sword, like on his back. Okay.
Which and I'm remembering that more, especially since now I decided to go ahead and pick up a copy of Final Fantasy VII on Steam, and then started messing around with mods and working with the Seventh Heaven mod manager, and bruh, when I get to streaming this bad boy, you are gonna want to see the difference that this stuff has made.
Yeah, no, I think I remember watching when the news came out, a remake was announced. Maximilian dude played that Seventh Heaven modded version of FF7, and to make it look like almost like a PS2 game. Like that's how hard they worked on this mod. It's pretty cool.
Between that and also just the sheer amount of work that went into the voice acting for the mod too.
Yeah,
like not just the player characters, but damn near every single NPC in the game.
Labor of love, man. That's so cool.
Exactly.
I do remember as well, talking about ads, the Iron Sword ad with Fabio. Like that always stands out to me too.
Yeah.
It's just like, is that Fabio? That is Fabio.
Yeah, I was like, when I was a kid, I do remember seeing that. I'm like, this guy looks familiar, but I think he was selling shampoo. Like in my little tiny James brain. So shout out to Tornado Chop in chat and Jagos1 for our comments. Good to see you guys. All right, get to the first one here. This one is close and dear to my heart, and I have a little story for it. So I'll pop it on the screen. And speaking of Iron Sword, it's not quite Iron Sword, but it's pretty kind of in the same genre. So, do you guys remember Legend on the Super Nintendo?
No.
Well, I've heard about it, but I think that's like one of the few that I just kind of passed up.
Okay. So, of course, who knows Sega, what they are now and what they do, right? We don't know. It looks almost like a Sunsoft logo / TradeWest logo, right? But these guys were kind of like tail end Super Nintendo era. They made a beat 'em up 2-player co-op called Legend, which was kind of like a mixture of King of Dragons and King Arthur's Knights of the Round.
Yeah.
But it did not play like those games. It's played pretty bad. Pretty bad. Yeah, Sega did not. They were like double 2A at the time. But with that said, it was one of the most like rarest games. There was not much in print. Like, first of all, who the heck is Sega, right? And then Chop says this game had really good art design, and that's exactly why I wanted to rent it. And this is where my story's coming from. I'm gonna decide to call this "Yo, check this out, hard to rent edition." So, and the reason for that is because I did see this game on my rental shelf at my local video store, and it was never in. It was always checked out, and I'm pretty sure someone had stolen this game after the third month of me trying to rent this thing. Right now, keep in mind, I was only allowed to rent games like Friday night. Games cost $2, right, to rent for like the evening. Return it the next day within 24 hours, right?
So
just
try out Blockbuster runs.
Yeah. So this was like some dude's like store, right? This guy was not like a franchise, right? Like Albert Video, you know what I'm saying? And I just remember coming back in. Do you have Legend in stock? Do you have Legend? Is Legend in? Like Albert would be like, nope, it's checked out. It's checked out. Check back tomorrow. They just checked it out today. For like 3 months, and the fourth month, I finally got Legend. I actually rented it, and it was not great. So it was rough because when you're a kid, like this means a lot more because you don't have the internet, right? You're only gonna play the games you have, right? There's no downloads, no nothing. And then if this game's checked out, you usually want to play a game that you don't have, but you want to play it over the weekend, right? So this was like the biggest disappointment for me, and this is why I chose this one personally, because like I just remember, man, that game Legend, I hyped it up so high in my brain, and it was really booty when I played it. So I remember it clearly.
I can see what you're saying now, looking at the gameplay of this too, like the style of it. Yeah, that kind of like
Yeah,
side scrolly. It does feel like Knights of the Round, but more like tighter, like just that single player. It can remind me like the way it's kind of running around like Final Fight kind of
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
but with
yeah.
swords and sorcery.
And they like they walked really slow. It was like Golden Axe where they had a little bit of magic in there. Also, shout out to John Granada in chat. He actually knows who Albert Video is because I grew up with him in Chicago, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So shout out to you, homie. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate you. But yeah, it was just like a nightmare story, and I just remember myself being so disappointed, and I was like, man, I'll never hype myself up for another game like this. And also I fell victim to the cool box art. Let's just I would be real on that. So have you guys experienced the same experience I had with this kind of game? Like you wanted to rent something because it looks so cool, then you play it and you're like, oh, this is kind of booty.
I got 4 words for you. Rise of the Robots.
Oh my god. All right, never mind. I stand corrected. There is another game out there worse than this. All right.
I think he's got it worse. I honestly don't have a lot like that because I didn't. So when I grew up in Chicago, we didn't have the ability to rent a lot of that stuff. I had my dad's Atari, then an NES, and then we moved out to Whidbey Island. Big change.
Okay.
There really wasn't a lot of places to do rentals unless we took the ferry over to the mainland, right? And it didn't really make sense to do that. Then bring it back, and
Yeah.
those kind of like libraries at the local places on Whidbey wouldn't have a big library of those games. So we just kind of played what we had at home, and then I played at friends' places. So
Yeah.
I fortunately, fingers crossed, I've fallen for stuff since then. But as a kid, I never had to worry about like coming home, spending money, really like hyping myself up and then playing crap. I just go to a friend's place and just be like, sweet, I'm glad I could play this game, and then leave.
Yeah, honestly, Nick, you would have been my friend that I go to their house to play a Genesis because I did not have one. So I'd be like, we would swap. Like you come over play Super, I'd come to your house play Genesis, bro.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it would have been.
You gotta find the friends that the family bought them the other one.
Yeah, we got some comments here in the chat. It says Jago's felt that. And then Tornado Chop says Rise of the Robots, aka booty ass fighter. Yeah, you're right, man. You're right. Segue into the next ad though. This is something that's not booty, but is also a fighter. Very, very, very memorable ad from what I saw. And when I saw it, I was like, whoa, I have to have that. Right.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah, but let's not oversee the little title. I mean, the little like comment they have right in the middle there. You got to be fast to last. So that is very 90s. That's all I gotta say.
And that right there, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, that was where I first figured out just how fast I could mash buttons.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too. Like, I never knew how slow a vanilla Street Fighter 2 was until I played Turbo. I never realized it.
Yeah, and I didn't realize how fast the game could be until I saw some speedrunners doing it, and then like the accepted rules for the speedrunners and like what they can do and what the like set standard is. It moves so quick.
No, yeah, this thing's crazy, and I think Ace, you were talking about the artist for this this Street Fighter artwork because I think this is the same person.
Yep,
right?
McGinty.
Yeah, and this is like I feel like a lost art, pun intended, right? But like to have and like who does all the box art stuff now? And this, I'm pretty sure this was hand painted, had to be. This is crazy right here. This is like what, like Renaissance, like detail.
Right? I mean,
Street Fighter.
Right? I mean, when you've got cats like McGinty and even in some cases Boris Vallejo and freaking Frank Frazetta doing cover artwork for books and games, like just the artwork itself could fill a museum.
That's true, and I think there is a documentary
museum
of some guy like collecting all the artwork. So I hope hopefully once I figure out who it is, I'll share it with you guys. But the next one that I'll show you is another rare game that was on the Nintendo. And I'm not sure if a lot of people will see this or know of this or recognize it, but if you do, props to you, brothers and sisters, because this one was a rare one. Do y'all remember Monster in My Pocket?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that was like a trend. It was the Pokemon before Pokemon, right? Not as cute as you can see, and they were like real, like dark universe monsters, like Medusas, mummies, right? And this fun little video game was kind of like Chippendale Rescue Rangers, but Konami made it. I think you only had two choices. It was either Frankenstein or Dracula, and you were fighting every monster in my pocket. Because if you look at the screenshots, like that's a giant key. You're like on top of a table of a kitchen because you're that small in this game. So I don't know. Have you guys played Monster in My Pocket? Chat. Do you guys know what this game is?
No, I never played this one, but I played similar games like Chippendales.
Yeah,
Definitely
that was a good one.
these kind of like the shrunken down ones. I mean, it reminds me of the trend around Honey We Shrunk the Kids all
Yep.
over again.
Yep. Yeah, and this I think they also had a cereal too, like legit a cereal for this one back in the 90s as well. But yeah, this was probably one of the rare Konami games. Like I said, the tail end. Once again, awesome artwork. I think it's the same artist that does like the Konami box artwork, like Contra and stuff like that, or Contra 2 or Op Super C. But yeah, super cool.
I want to know how that tuna casserole tastes, though.
Bro, it's probably super stale now. This one is a piggyback off last week's ad that we shared. This is technically the sequel to the game, and the reason why I chose it is because it was like elevated, right? It was like almost it was the same ad, but like a steel ball.
Yeah,
NBA
metallic
Jam
and even more on
NBA
fire.
Jam Turbo.
Yeah, literally NBA Jam Turbo Edition. Like Street Fighter 2. So more characters, more types of dunks. I mean, it's kind of funny. They had what is that? Scottie Pippen and Kukoc as the main two. I think Horace Grant was your third man, and BJ Armstrong was there also. But yeah, look at that Seattle Supersonics, man. Peyton and Kemp does not exist anymore. Also,
this was 95, right?
Yep. Jam Day 95. And that's what I was about to say is like Midway had a great like marketing thing where there's like Mortal Monday, Jam Day 95. Like those were like memorable days. I mean, those were days you go, it's Jam Day. I got to go in line and get my copy of NBA Jam,
And
like,
that was the thing to do. Remember Sonic 2? Sonic Tuesday?
Yep. So I don't know if we're just in a different time now, but these were celebrated when these were released, right? You hung out with people like Nick said in his stories. Like it was really cool to see people go to like midnight releases and see the community and stuff like that. This was before that era also, so yeah, good on miss those days. All right, so we'll go straight to the last one. Since I did see Brave New World on Friday for Valentine's Day, I wanted to share this ad with you and ask if you guys have played this game, because I specifically owned it for Super Nintendo, and was also AKA hard to rent edition because it was never in stock. It was always rented out. So, and by reputation, I can see why, because it is an arcade port. And it's Captain America, and it's the 90s, and look how sick this artwork is.
I had it for the Genesis.
Yeah, you had it for the Genesis? Yeah, I had it for the Super Nintendo. And the Super Nintendo art box was actually different than the Genesis one. This one was, I think, the official one for the Genesis. The one for the Super had more like hyper realistic art on it, but the same formatting. So you guys can check that out if you like. But I just remember seeing this game in the arcades, had to play it. It was like the X-Men equivalent, right? But Captain America, arguably one of the first monetizations for arcade machines, because when you put a quarter in, you get X amount of life. You guys remember that? Like the life was numbers based, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so when your life went to 0, you just died. But like if you added a quarter, it'd give you like 200 more hit points or something like that. So I know it's like not continues, but it gave you life instead of continues. So howdy
that
dowdy.
Super Nintendo box is awesome,
right? And it's like the same formatting, but like it's more hyper realistic. Like more like a painting. So Super cool. And yeah, we got Red Skull there, White Vision, Ultron, the Mandarin, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Crossbones. So that's super rad. Yeah. Yeah, one of my story with this one is the same thing. Like, do you guys have Captain America in stock? No. Do you have Legend? No. All right, guess I'll die. Like.
And what's funny is that there actually was a port on the NES.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And it played considerably. It was one of those times where cross generation, cross gen ports of the same game tended to play very different from each other. Like on the Super NES and the Genesis, they were it was more of a 1-to-1 comparison, but the NES version, like, it had separate stages, but they were all interconnected by like an overworld map.
Yep. And I think it was also a platformer. It wasn't technically a beat 'em up.
Yep.
And then you chose missions, from what I remember. It was kind of the same with how we got for the Super Nintendo War of the Infinity Gems, which played more like X-Men Apocalypse, but but the arcades we had Marvel superheroes already. Right, so that was a rough time for those guys, but you can't fit an arcade game in a Super Nintendo cart. They already did Wizard Magic with Street Fighter Alpha 2.
I was about to say, he's like, you can't fit an arcade game in a cartridge, and then Capcom says, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that is it.
On the box for that, the box art for the Super Nintendo, I have it on my screen. Apparently, you can win the Captain America video arcade game.
Oh, cool.
That's what it said. There's apparently details inside to win the arcade version of that.
In this one, you just get a stupid collector's pin. Trash, dude.
Trash.
But yeah, those weren't. They were very common that you could like win stuff if you send a postcard in with a stamp on it. And then you get a raffle. I always fell for those on EGM magazines where like, send us a post-dated postcard, with like $5. And I'm like, all right. And then you get the chance to win this whole entertainment rig worth $3,000, right? So I was that kid. I was like, let's just do it. It's only $5. You can win this whole thing. I was so innocent, so pure. But anyway, all right, guys, I appreciate checking out. Check this out, and we'll have more. Maybe I'll do some Tomb Raider next week. But yeah, that is it for now. All right. So as always, we get to our next segment here in This Week in Gaming History. I want to walk in a room in that place. Like, I think that would be so cool. Or start a speech, and that's like
until you forget something in the other room, have to keep walking through it.
yeah, it just keeps playing over and over again, like stepping on the podium or something. But yeah, this week we have a bunch of crazy stuff, and there was a bunch of very similar games that I noticed, and I noticed a few games in there that really resonated with me, and this is why on the VOD, you'll see that this episode is called The Birth of the Run and Gun, or in this live episode, The Brith of the Run and Gun, because I'm dyslexic like that. So let's get going, shall we? All right. Okay, so February 16. I always lose my place. What do we got? All right, so you guys heard me on stream talk about this game all the time. I have a really crazy Reset Game story about this of some guy that's super obsessed with Gears of War, and I introduced him to this game, and this became his favorite game. So in 2016, in 2012 in Japan, Binary Domain came out on the PS3 and 360. So have you guys played this game inside me, chat?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah, I have.
Thoughts. I want thoughts. I want opinions.
Yeah, like you said, Gears of War reminded me of that a lot. I just loved Gears so much at the time that I just tried this out when it came out, and it just didn't stick for me.
Okay.
But like you said, it was not a bad thing to suggest to people who like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Chop says, I got a weird story of this game. Okay.
Yeah, toss it in, Chop, by the way, while we're talking about this. If anyone in chat has some crazy stories about the games we come across, we love hearing that. That's the whole point of this. It's kind of that community connection, just like the stuff that we grew up with or that stuff that happened in the past. It's just like, holy shit.
I've checked, I checked out a little bit of the game, but around 20, around 2012, 2013, back when it released, that was still, the big, that was still the big, the big era for fighting game releases. So we were focused more on stuff like, Ultimate Marvel 3, Cross Tekken, Soul Calibur.
Okay. I mean, so you have played this, Ace?
Like a little bit.
Very little bit. Okay. Well, I mean, here, chat in a nutshell, it's Gears of War meets iRobot / Terminator. AI goes wild on this island full of uncanny valley humanoids, right?
Oh.
Right. The cool thing about this game is when you shoot the robots, like pieces of it come off, and it looks really cool. And and if you shoot their legs off, they're still crawling towards you, right? So excited, I punched the microphone. You see that? But yeah, and it's and it also had like a relationship system with the teammates that you chose. So I always thought that this game was like more than meets the eye. And it's not quite run and gun, but it is one of those games that I think that got inspired by Contra and more. So, Nick, you had something to say?
Bo. I completely forgot about Bo and his voice actor. One of your like guy that's following you around, your squad mate, Bo, the big dude. His quotes in this, I completely forgot about that. Like, it's bringing back memories now.
All right, let's see
just shouting at each other.
So this is pretty much the game here, right? This is a third person action cover shooter. And here's the thing. There was also a multiplayer to this game, but nobody knew this game existed. So there was like nobody playing it, right? Ace, this is my best description of this game, Ace. If you took Anarchy Reigns and gave it guns, this is kind of like the same vibe that you get. Like kind of like no one knew what it was, but it was super fun for those that like the genre.
Okay.
So there's the uncanny valley humanoids back there.
Yeah. It's like when you're seeing at the bottom, I have the audio turned off so it doesn't blow up anything. But Big Bo, as he's sitting there like shouting at you, the voice actor is just like he's at 11 the entire time, like the caricature. I just remember that so much, and just like just that shouting in the back of my like headphones and head. But I see what you're saying. I completely forgot about like the particle effects and like
look at that
breaking apart.
It's so cool. There was like uncanny. It was Bo was pretty much the Coltrane of the game, right? He was like mixed with Coltrane with Uncle Phil.
It was a vibe. He was a vibe.
Yeah, he was a vibe for sure. One of the things, and we'll move on here, but I'm just hyping up this game so much. But one of the stages that I recall in this game had a chase scene where you were in a van and you were in a hovercraft was chasing you, right? And I swear they took inspiration from Terminator 2. When the helicopter was chasing him on a freeway, because I felt that same vibe. So clearly there's some inspiration behind this game, and if you guys are juicing up for a third person shooter and you haven't played this before, give it a shot, man. I'm pretty sure it's really inexpensive right now. So
Tornado Chop brought up a good thing in the comments. I completely forgot this did have voice recognition in it.
You're right. Yeah, that was like the early time.
We talked about Lifeline before, like this with Bo shouting at you, and he would respond when he couldn't hear you or understand you. So good.
Yeah, and you're like, Bo, back, retreat, brother, retreat.
I can't understand you, man. Like,
I'm gonna go all in.
And again, considering how the tech has advanced as far as voice recognition and microphone fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
Something like this could make a big comeback.
Yeah, I mean, luckily you could select the commands too without the voice chat, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like watching this game now makes me just want to play it, So, awesome.
All
right. All right, while we're watching that, I'll cover a few other games that came out this month, or that's this day. One of my favorite games on the Nintendo, aka the Famicom, the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, came out in 1989 in Japan. Rice Star on the Genesis in 1995, which was a super cool platformer. Nox on the PC in 2000. Monster Hunter 2 on the PS2 in 2006 in Japan. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon on the DS in 2009, which is technically the first remake of the first Fire Emblem on the Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Alien vs. Predator on the 360 and PS3 in 2010. Contra Hardcore, wink wink nudge nudge, Uprising on the 360 in 2011. Of course, Binary Domain. Project Cross Zone 2 on the 3DS in 2016. So a lot of big hitters for me in that this day. So pretty good. They were really trying to get me before Valentine's Day. All right. So Nick, I see that you have Nox highlighted here. What's up with that?
I remember this game when I was a kid, just because it was one of those free ones that came in like a demo, and I have it on the screen now just because I had to show what this was. You're going to recognize the gameplay pretty quickly. It was very similar to a lot of things that came out at the time, but a few people here in chat might remember I was a huge fan of Command and Conquer back in the day, like Red Alert especially. Huge fan of Westwood Studios, whatever they did. Westwood Studios made this game. So it's
cool.
an isometric like sorcery game where you could choose from 3 classes. It had unique endings for each of them. To me, it was like really ahead of its time, but I just remember like getting a demo of this game, and it was like a timed demo where you could only play for like 10 minutes or something like that. But you'll notice it kind of looks familiar. So this actually came out 5 months before Diablo 2. So you can see why it maybe wouldn't have lasted, but it was a little ahead of its time with the way that you kind of run around. But yeah, this was
that's super cool. Field
like
Division 2.
Yeah, it's very much like my own kind of gaming history thing, where it's like the demo is what like got me interested in this game, and then I saw it was by Westwood, which has young little Nicky B. I was just like, I have to play it. It's a Westwood Studios game.
Yeah,
but I just remember running around in it, and the fact
that transition between rooms, though, that Field Division effect, that is just
and this predated Diablo 2 just barely.
Yeah, I feel like
Obviously,
Diablo 2 is the more arcade version, and this is like the more serious RPG version.
It kind of like I don't know if it did have some humor to it. Like it wasn't as dark as Diablo 2 was, but you can kind of see where it's like inspiration was around that time.
Isometric.
Yeah, isometric, very much kind of like it's supposed to be like explained through location loading screens. It's like some decades before this dude arrives at Nox. So you have to like fight a group of necromancers, and you can choose from 3 like classes essentially, which were all the same like caster kind of thing. You can choose like warrior, but he had some abilities that were like magical, and then conjure or wizard, and they each played a little bit differently. But like I said, it was like a timed demo when I had it, so I kept playing that same I want to say it was like 10 minutes or something over and over again, and it had the timer on the screen, so you're like, how far can I get before the timer's gone and I gotta move on. But yeah, it just stood out to me, and it was just one of those things. Like Jago said, I mean, EA got the rights to this, and we never saw Westwood again. But it's just one of those games that just kind of stood out in my own personal gaming history.
That's kind of funny because I do associate Westwood with EA. So the fact that I forgot about Westwood because EA hasn't really done anything with them, that sucks. Yeah,
look at that field of vision, like you're saying, Ace. It's like going through the doorways, like the light is your vision. It's pretty cool.
That's super cool. I mean, here's the thing: they didn't have to do that, but they did.
They did.
You know what I'm saying?
If I remember right, too, like one cool thing about this is it had like a death match and a capture the flag mode, and there was like an expansion that made like co-op as well, like cooperative, like online multiplayer kind of thing.
Super cool.
So I felt like it was a little ahead of its time, but stuff that I never really played because I never bought the game. I got Diablo 2 because that's what my parents I had money for.
Yeah. Is this only on console or is this on Steam?
This was PC back in the day. It is definitely not around anymore. I don't know if you can still play it.
GOG probably.
Yeah, possibly. I know that the magic system, I was reading online about it before this because I was hoping we'd talk about it, but it is incredibly complex because there's like combinations that you have to do, and it's actually inspired by Magic the Gathering, like the magic system. So yeah, just some weird stuff, really kind of weirdly ahead of its time with some of its mechanics. Maybe didn't catch on for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
The company keep.
you never know. Like next week, we may get an announcement from Microsoft saying we're releasing Nox, the sequel. you never know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Right. Hey, awesome! Thanks for sharing, man. All right, so on the 17th, what do we got here? All right. I mean, if you guys love character action games, you guys know which game this is, and I just felt like I had to highlight it. Honestly, this one was a tough one because it was either this or Rise to Honor on the PlayStation 2. But on the 17th of February, Devil May Cry 3: Dante's Awakening came out on the PS2 in 2005 in Japan. one of the best character action games I've ever played. Super hype, super fun. Character combat, right? And I don't know, the story is kind of basic in my opinion, but it's just super cool how they like hyped you up for the last fight, and technically a prequel to the Devil May Cry series. So yeah. Ace, any memories on this guy?
Oh, this is another one of those games where it's like, how many weekends did I sacrifice to this?
Nice. No, I feel you, man. And there's a rumor floating around this or Devil May Cry 1 may be getting remade by Capcom since Kamiya's on board now with them. So it's kind of speculated, but you know,
you think they'd probably re-release the special edition version?
Maybe, or just remake it completely.
Yeah.
I did see Ruben Langdon make a comment on X about how the party's just getting started because it's the anniversary for this game on the 17th.
Yep.
So, and then also to correlate that, Daniel Southward said he just finished doing a project that involved Virgil. So I was like, okay, don't get me hopes here. It's probably a mobile game.
Don't give me hope.
Yeah,
it's probably a mobile.
It's probably a mobile game.
Oh no.
So anyway, on the 17th, other games came out like Windjammers in the arcade in 1994 in Japan, arguably just Pong with extra steps. So Ultima Collection on the DOS in 1998, the legendary Siphon Filter on the PlayStation 1 in 1999, Dark Cloud 2 on the PS2 in 2003, like I said, Rise to Honor with Jet Li on PS2 in 2004, Catherine came out on the PS3 on the 360 in 2011 in Japan, Dead or Alive 5 Last Round on the PS4, Xbox One, 360 in 2015, Halo Wars 2 on the PC and Xbox One in 2009, Triangle Strategy on the Switch in 2021, and speaking of Monster Hunter clones, God Eater clones, Wild Hearts on the PC and PS5, Xbox Series X in 2023. I see a little highlight here for Wild Hearts, Ace. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now Wild Hearts was actually one that I, for a while, was thinking about passing up because, you know, income was limited at the time. So, you know, I was picking and choosing my games. But, you know, good friend of mine, she had gotten on stream. She had been playing it. I watched a little bit of it, and I watched my homie Oliver playing it too. And, you know, I saw it and I'm like, you know, just how different the monsters and the settings seemed, even compared to something like Monster Hunter Rise, you know, both with that, you know, traditional Japanese folklore sort of, you know, theming.
The aesthetic, yeah.
Yeah. But then, you know, seeing like the different structures that you could build mid-hunt and then some of the weapons that were in there too, you know, I figured, you know what? Might as well cop the game, give it a shot, see what happened, and I was down.
Did not disappoint?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, here's the thing. I do have to ask because I played the Sony version called Toukiden, which actually was developed by W Force. Have you played that?
Yeah, I did get the chance to play Toukiden 1, Extreme, and 2.
Okay, so I would have to ask you, like, what do you think? Do you think there's a similarity? Because I know Wild Hearts was made by EA and also helped develop by W Force, right? Or
EA published it.
Published it, got it. Because I knew like they developed it, right?
Yeah, EA published, but it was, you know, it was still an Omega Force joint.
Yeah. So there's actually a secret area in this spot right here on the elevator in this video where you had to clear the elevator because it got heavy as more monsters jumped on it, and it was slowly rising up. That was a secret level or secret stage in Devil May Cry 3. This exact scene right here. So kind of funny. One more note here. In 2005, Xbox Game Studios announces to voluntarily replace the power cords on 14.1 million Xbox consoles worldwide. A rare electrical component failures posed fire hazards. Wow, that's a loss. A lawsuit.
Yeah, I remember when that happened too, because we were working in the store and a lot of people were coming in with those AC adapters. Because remember, they had a second-gen version of them. Yeah, the brick that people wanted to buy or had to get replaced because it would randomly potentially set on fire.
That's kind of crazy. Hey, but it is what it is, right? So, and I'm glad they at least addressed it and was like, hey, you guys screw off, and they actually,
Oh yeah,
helped out everybody with that. So that's cool. Super cool. All right. What do we got here? Next one. Oh, did I skip one? I did skip one. All right. So I actually wanted to do this one for Nick here because he talks about this game very highly. But Horizon Forbidden West came out on the PS4 and PS5 in 2022. I have not played it yet. It is on my to play list. Right, I chose Ghost of Tsushima instead to play,
which is not a bad choice.
Not a bad choice, right? Because if I was, you give me the options, red pill, blue pill, I chose, Ghost of Tsushima. So, tell me why, why you love this game so much? Because, I feel like when this game came out, it came out with the genre of open world, discover, big world, massive immersion thing it was a thing,
Yeah, to me, it kind of came down to the first one is the one that really sold me on it. I talked about it before in the past. Was one of those ones I tried the demo at PAX before it came out for the first game, and I didn't really care for it. And then I bought it on day one because the reviews were so good. Ended up returning it the same day to buy the collector's edition because I loved it that much. For me, it was the world building.
There you go.
It was the ultra realistic, future, post-apocalyptic kind of feel where you're discovering old technology and the story that was there. So I love the world building more than anything, and that's what really got me into Horizon. I can understand the aesthetic of it. I know that some people, it's not for everyone, it may not be their style. I know a couple commenters are mentioning that. I just love the world so much. So Forbidden West is just that game but more. So if you played the first one, I can understand choosing Ghost of Tsushima over playing Forbidden West first, because it's not a massive change. There's some new mechanics and stuff in it. There's new parts of the world, and there's of course more story. It's just, to me, the first one's story, just finding out about all of these things that happened in the past, conspiracies and stuff. It was just incredible to me. Like I said, the world building and the story is what drove me to love these games so much. It helps that the game is also incredibly beautiful, and Lance Reddick being in the game as well, voicing the character, fantastic, and I loved that character. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons that I love it, but I can't point to just one thing outside of the story and the world building is really what sold me.
Okay, no, that's fantastic, and I'm glad to kind of hear that coming from you, because I'm always interested in why this is one of the coolest games I ever played. Is it the aesthetic, right? And Ace said he likes the aesthetic of Wild Hearts, the Japanese mythological monsters, right? Stuff like that. So and to me, I just chose Ghost because I think at the time they were Assassin's Creed Shadows is this, and I was let me try this game because that was the conversation at the time, and I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima yet. Because I think one of the things I heard was I would rather just play Ghost of Tsushima again than Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I was okay, let me try this then. So I now have reference, so when I do play AC Shadows, I can be oh, okay, cool,
Yeah, so, with this, I popped up the gameplay just on my screen again, but it's one of those things when you saw the interactivity with the world too, and the fact Aloy could sneak around in it, and you'd see the plants kind of part a little bit. We loved doing that back in the game with old school video games, right? The plants are moving kind of thing. It's one of the
physics,
right? Yeah. Just the realism of being in it. But it felt like you had a lot of weight in this world. Even though she's walking in the sand, it felt like the character was affected by the world around it. So the game is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But it's the fact that you can kind of be in this role and to affect it a little bit, especially with the environment. That's kind of again why I got pulled into the game so much. I just felt immersed because the design with you can see with the lighting here and the shadows and everything, the reflections, it's just an incredibly beautiful game, and you can say that about it even if you aren't a fan of the gameplay.
Oh yeah,
the art and the hard work and effort they put into it. Yeah, for sure. Oh no, no doubt, it's a very pretty game. And actually, I saw a brief documentary on how they pulled it off. Apparently, your field of view right now is what's only rendering, while the rest is super blurry. And I was that's so clever, because who would care? You know what I'm saying?
That's an old school trick. I mean, old developers as well, older developers on older generations, it was the same thing. Just render what they're looking at, not what's behind them.
It's so smart, because I didn't even think about that till I saw that, and that would save so much hardware, power and resources. So that's super cool.
The modern problems, old school solutions.
Smoke and mirrors, ladies and gents. So Other games that came out
The old
on
way
the
is best.
the other games that came out on the 18th of February. Tic Tac Toe on the. Does it say Atari? Because it says Altair on here.
Nope, that is the original Altair 8800.
Oh, okay, the Altair 8800. Awesome, because he jumps off buildings and calls birds. In 1976, I would love a picture of that. I want to see what that looks like.
I'll pull it up for you while you're looking at other things.
Okay, Wild Gunman on the NES in 1984 in Japan. It was like 1, 2, 3 shoot, kind of with the zapper, right? Who could forget Wayne's World on the Genesis in 1993? Another lost franchise to us, Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter on the PS2 in 2003. Heavy Rain on the PS3 in 2003. The remake release of Strider on the PS3 and PS4 in 2014. Tekken 7 came out in the arcade in 2015 in Japan. Attack on Titan on the PS3, Vita, and PS4 in 2016 in Japan. The spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger, no relation, but they said this is why they made it. I Am Setsuna on the PS4 on the Vita in 2016 in Japan as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think I chose Breath of Fire just to note that it's the forgotten freaking franchise from Capcom. That is the Altair 8800.
Yes, it is.
What is that? Am I gonna make a phone call off that thing? Jeez. That's
no,
cool.
a phone call will take too much power.
That's cool. I like that. It's kind of wild that this machine, this complicated piece of equipment, can draw four lines down, 4 lines across, and play a game. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy to think about it. But yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to feature is Breath of Fire, Bring It Back, Capcom, and I Am Setsuna. If you haven't played this JRPG, the developer said they were inspired by Chrono Trigger, so check it out. It's something that kind of like what's the other game that we saw? We're like, whoa, this game looks cool, and it's like Chrono Trigger, right?
Sea of Stars.
Yeah, Sea of Stars, like I Am Setsuna is kind of was that for them.
Yeah.
Also, note in 2021, EA completes its acquisition of Codemasters and its subsidiaries known for F1 games, Grid, and Dirt.
Oh, Grid! I miss Grid. I miss the original Grid.
And
Dirt blew up too, especially for rally fans.
What's funny about Codemasters is when on the Nintendo, I don't know if it's the same Codemasters, I actually played another racing game from them. It was Micro Machines. So it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that is the news for 2018 for this week in gaming history. Anything else you want to add to that, Ace? I think you had Attack on Titan on this bad boy.
Yeah, I highlighted Attack on Titan because although I missed it, I did pick up Attack on Titan 2, which much credit to Koei Tecmo. For 2, they literally bundled all the content from the first game into the second one, so you were not missing out for starters. And the best way to describe Attack on Titan, like just the gameplay loop in general, it's a reverse Muso. Because you've got the 101st, you've got your Scout Corps, you've got your character, and you are literally going up against the Titans in the Spider-Man game that I never knew I wanted.
Yeah, it is a Spider-Man game, isn't it? That's kind of funny. Thought about it that way. Yeah, it's super fun game. I played the first one. Never got a chance to play the second one. I know the final battle one's super rare. Like the physical copies, like nearing like $120 on that guy. Mm-hmm. So pretty crazy. All right, we'll move on to the next day here. On 2/19, the Ikari Warriors came out in the arcade in 1986. One of the first run and gun games, arguably the one game that came out before Contra, right? Made by SNK, which is actually featured in today's opening music. That was the Ikari Warriors theme. Super cool. And if you saw the thumbnail, the Ikari Warriors were also on there as Ralph and Clark from King of Fighters, because those are technically the 2 guys you see on the screen there.
Yep. Right?
Mr. Red and Blue Headband. And it's like, man, that guy's ripped. The guy in the front, dude. He's shredded, dude. He looks like a PE coach that could like body slam you. But yeah, this was like a top-down vertical shooter, right? And what's interesting about Ikari Warriors was the stick, the joystick at the time, was actually a turnable knob. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
So to strafe, you would turn the knob, and your character would turn the direction, right? And then you could move the joystick to move your character and to move his direction how he shot when you turn the knob. Super interesting. It was very unique at the time, and my like little childhood brain couldn't like fathom it for a while. And I was like, I want to turn left, but he's just moving left, but he's shooting right. So it was another layer of like mental thought to use. It was technically like the second stick at the time, which is, if you think about it, it's kind of crazy. But I think personally, I believe Ikari Warriors was the game that really spawned like the run and gun genre. Just because it's like, if you look at this, you look at the art of Contra, kind of looks very similar, right? And it's always that like red player, blue player, player one, player two, And if you look at it closely too, it kind of almost looks like the same formatting as the Contra box art, right? And the only way they had to spice it up was to add Arnold and Sly and aliens, and to make it different from this guy. So
pretty much.
Yeah, so thank you, Ikari Warriors and SNK.
And yeah, no, Chop actually has it right. It was Contra, not Contra, Commando.
Mando, yeah, for Capcom, yeah.
That really spawned the running gun genre.
Yeah, and that was single player though, so like that was, but you're right on that one. Capcom did start with that one. It's kind of funny how the trifecta did it, right? Capcom, SNK, and then Konami were like, we'll do our own, and that's how I talk about competition breeds innovation, right? So Super cool. All right, other games that came out that day was Fight Night Round 3, Crackdown on the 316 2007, NBA Street Home Court on the 316 2007, Guilty Gear Xrd Sign, the arcade in 2014 Japan, The Order 1886, ironically, that's the game I chose to pick for O, on the PS4 in 2015. Metal Gear Survive, if anybody remembers that game, on the PS4 and Xbox One in 2018, and Balatro came out in 2024. So, let's see here. Do you have any gameplay for this? Videos for this guy? Ikari Warriors, what do you have up here?
Oh, Ikari Warriors? No, I think you jumped a day.
Did I?
You said Ikari Warriors, which is the 19th, and then you jumped down to The Order and Balatro, which is the 20th.
Oh, right. Yeah. Once again, I'm crazy. My bad.
But still, super important. You got ahead of yourself.
I'm talking to you in the future. Gitaru Man was released on the PS2 in 2002. Shadow Hearts Covenant on the PS2 in 2004. Dynasty Warriors 6 on the PS3 360 in 2008. Crisis 3, we talked about that on the podcast before, on the PC, PS3, 360 in 2013. And Metal Gear Rising Revengeance on the PS3, 360 in 2013. This was like the day of like long titles, I swear. But yeah, that's a fireball of a release day. But yeah, I mean, I'll just jump into Guitar Man real quick. Parappa the Rapper with the Spaceman theme to it. Super cool. One of the more unique rhythm games out there. Super expensive if you want to collect it, but I mean, check it out for yourself. Do you have it on your screen?
Guitar Man, I can pull it up if you like. I have Metal Gear Solid Revenge, Gear Rising Revengeance, which is
let's get right into that then,
of a name,
because I like that game as well.
Banger of an OST, by the way. The soundtrack for this is amazing.
Yes. This game was also in development hell for a while, wasn't it, Ace?
Yeah, it was, because at first it was just Konami trying to develop it themselves, and they, like, legitimately, they were having a hard time trying to actually put the game together. They were, Konami and, the Metal Gear Solid team, they were, strictly, a stealth action team. They didn't have much experience, or, didn't really know what they were trying to do. So they took what they had, took it over to Platinum, and literally within the next 7 days, they already had a playable proof of concept. Like, okay,
that's crazy.
With this, boom, here, try my new sandwich.
They are the action game developer, man. I remember, like, at an E3 somewhere, or Tokyo Game Show, like, the only concept that Kojima had for this game was Raiden chopping a watermelon.
Yeah.
And we were like, super fun, great. Like, there's nothing else.
Literally, they took that to Platinum.
Oh man, they took it. They went with it. That's for sure. 100%. They dialed it to 11. If anything, it was nuts. Nick, did you ever play Revengeance?
Yes, I did, but
Okay.
well after the fact. It
Okay.
was one of those games that a buddy of mine was really into, and then we started working at Reset together, and we started playing like the soundtrack to this, and I got really into the soundtrack. I'm like, this is pretty badass.
Yeah.
I really like this. But there was always kind of that joke about like, what is the name of this game? Like, why call it that? But then I played it. I'm usually not great at anything with patterns, so I had to have a lot of patience, played on a lower difficulty, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. The chopping of the watermelon, like that sold me, just to like imagine that sword just like cutting through any material. Like the couple times we've seen it in this video, just watching him chopping metal off this thing to like get into its like soft bits. It was so cool. I love the idea behind that. It had a lot of style. Even though I wasn't big on like the Metal Gear universe, it was fun to play.
This is one of those games where if it wasn't called Metal Gear, it would have still been badass.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this, like the way they presented this game, I was like super impressed. It made Raiden cool again, you know, because in the last game he was in was MG4, was right before this, and he was kind of like okay at the time because like MG2 he was kind of annoying, right? So they kind of made him like super like likable in this one, and you know this was, man, like you were thinking about bringing Metal Gear to an action genre. This was it. Like, and Platinum did it, and I think this was what put Platinum on the map. Like, if it for those that weren't like cult like followers like us with God Hand and all them, right? Like this put Platinum like, wow, they make some sweet action games, you know, for sure. So,
man, I loved Vanquish though so much.
Vanquish is pretty cool, and you know, and we're talking about like you know melee versus shooters. I feel like it's the same game, but like with two different weapons. You know what I'm saying? Like in Vanquish, you're shooting, and this one you're doing hack and slash. But the idea of it's the same, high intensity, like super cool, like angles and stuff like this.
QTEs.
Yeah, particles flying, like it's just so hype, you know. And this was like one of the few games that had the dynamic music. Like if you're doing really good, the music amps up, and if you're doing bad, it like lowers down a little bit.
Or if the actions just hit like a lull point, like you know, a segment where you're actually encouraged to use stealth.
Yeah,
you know, how the music actually like kind of mellows out, and you just get that sort of sneaking ambience.
Yep. Yeah, they use the soundtrack really well in this game, and that's like very seldom used in most games, right? The dynamic soundtrack. So super cool. No, that definitely brings back memories. All right. A game that brings back memories for sure. The birth of the run and gun here on the we gotta go back, right? No, that's right. I can't read anymore. On 20th of February, Contra on the arcade came out in 1987. So technically, yeah, the Ikari Warriors came out in 86. This came out a year after. So I feel like Konami like literally saw that it was like that game and was like, we're gonna make our own version of that, right? And I also decided to show you guys the box art for the Japanese Famicom version, right? Because we always know what the US version looks like, but never the Japanese version.
So I want to like put it out there for one of our future podcasts. We should do comparisons because some of the international box arts, even like the PAL version ones, like the European ones, are so much better than what we got here in the US. There's definitely a game or something we can do for one of those topics. Like there's some great stuff.
Yeah, that could be a sequel to a Yo Check This Out segment. Ace, you got something to say?
Oh no, I was just saying, like with box art comparisons, like more often than not, the stuff that came out in foreign territories usually tended to be better, or at the very least had some more creativity put to it compared to the stuff in the US.
Yeah, US was definitely targeted toward like Americans. Like, I mean, if you look at the box art to this versus the US, it's like night and day. Like who's gonna buy this? What kind of person's gonna buy this, right? But yeah, so I read this off earlier, but real quick, Contra 1987 arcade, Fight Night Round 3 on the 360, PS2, PSP 2006, Crackdown on the 360 in 2007, NBA Street Home Court, I think was like the last street basketball game released on the 360 in 2007, Guilty Gear Xrd Sign, Arcade 2014, Japan, The Order 1886, PS4 2015, Metal Gear Survive, quite the contrast to Revengeance, in PS4 and Xbox One in 2018, and Balatro in 2024. So, yeah, that was it. Anything on this one, Nick? Anything else?
Nope. I mean, I loved the original Crackdown.
Yeah.
I was really, really happy when that came out, but I won't add too much to this because I know we got to get caught up.
Open world. Yep. All right. So in 2021 or 221, I'm dying over here. The Legend of Zelda came out on the Famicom in 1986 in Japan. Not a run and gun, but technically one of the first open world games ever made. Nobody really knows that, but it is. Yeah, once again, Japanese box art over the American one. Not a lot of gold in this one. I liked Anime Link, and the background does a good job of showing you like kind of how the world is for The Legend of Zelda. I don't know why there's a 1 there though. Anybody know why there's a 1 right there? Like, is that an assumption there's a sequel? Like, you know what I'm saying? So curious on that one. Okay, while we're figuring that out, other games that came out on the 21st, Star Fox on the Super Nintendo in 1993 in Japan, Game Boy Camera came out on Game Boy on 1998 in Japan, Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix on the PlayStation in 2001, Bulletstorm, personal favorite of mine, on the PC in 2011. Ace's personal favorite, Asura's Wrath, on the PS3, 360 in 2012. A little game that came out of nowhere called Syndicate on the PC, PS3, 360 in 2012, and we'll talk about that in a second. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Wii U in 2014. Atomic Heart came out on multiple consoles and platforms in 2023. And another game on my A to Z gaming list, Pacific Drive, came out on the PC in 2024 last year. So I had Syndicate highlighted for this one because, first of all, do you all remember Syndicate on the PC back in the day?
I do, because it was a tactical game by Bullfrog, and that was the same thing as Westwood. Like Bullfrog, I followed pretty heavily because I loved playing like, Theme Hospital and stuff like that. So I saw Syndicate. I'm like, I got to check this out.
Yeah, Syndicate was like Shadowrun from what I remember.
Yeah.
Nick, if you could pull up Syndicate gameplay in 2012, I don't think a lot of people knew about this game, but this game was published by EA, I think.
Looking for the 2012 one, I already got on the screen, my guy.
Got on the screen? Awesome, dude. You the man. All right. So this guy right here, does anybody remember playing this game in 2012 except me?
I did play it, but that's again because it was a reboot of the franchise. So I was really interested to see where they take it. And I did like the aesthetic. I love the cover art on this one and the kind of cyberpunky aesthetic that it had going on. So I was interested in trying to. I remember it kind of came out to middling reviews though.
It was pretty mid, as the kids would say. Ace, this was the Armored Core version of a first-person shooter. This was corporate warfare, using spies and hackers against other companies, right? And that's why it was called Syndicate. I think there was another bigger picture controlling all three.
Okay.
Right? And so, but that's the whole point of the game was that these are corporations like fighting each other. Just like Armored Core, where they would hire you, right? Cool thing about it was like half first-person shooter, half like hacker. Like you could almost like Deus Ex, right? But it was definitely more action than it was like role-playing or kind of anything.
Yeah, not as slow as like Mankind Divided or anything like that.
Yeah.
It did have like sliding and cover-based stuff in it, but it was definitely more like you can see here, like more of an FPS. But yeah, the main reason for me was like James said, the corporate warfare storyline kind of thing. It was interesting, like augmented spies.
Unique, yeah. I would say like it was kind of a shame because like I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't see this game coming back from the grave anytime soon. Also, kind of when I played this, I think I remember at the time I was like, when are we getting another Black game?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like, this reminded me of Black a little bit, but like, I knew that's not a thing anymore. So maybe someday. All right. Let's see here. Okay, moving to our last day, which is the 20. Before I move on, 1980, HAL Laboratory, Inc. company founded, known for Adventures of Lolo, Kirby, Earthbound, and Super Smash Bros. In 1980. So wasn't okay. It was HAL that made Kirby. You have it on there. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, all those Kirby games, HAL Laboratories, and a lot of us, especially in our generation, knew it more so out if you didn't play like Kirby was for Smash Bros. Because everyone
Ooh,
knew it when
that's
that
right.
popped up. The Inu Tamago logo, the dog
Mhm.
egg.
Yep.
I
And
didn't know Earthbound was HAL also. That's cool.
They were part of it. Yeah, it was two development teams, but HAL was one of the two on it.
Okay, no, that's
and,
super cool.
and of course, from HAL Laboratory, we were also graced with the late Satoru Iwata, the original president of HAL Laboratory you know before moving over to Nintendo proper, and of course, Iwata is partially responsible for, I believe it was, not Red. It was the second gen Pokemon.
Oh, the GBA one,
Yeah,
like
it was,
Fire
yeah.
Red, Emerald.
No, it was, but it was the Gen 2 Pokemon games.
Yeah.
Because without his expertise, they wouldn't have been able to fit the Kanto region into Gen 2.
Yeah. One man did it all. No, that's cool, and they owe him a lot because that imagine what that would have been if he wasn't there, right? All right, last day, the 22nd of February, guys. I don't know if you guys know, but Knight's Contract came out that day on the 360 and PS3 in 2011. Now, raise your hand if you played Knight's Contract. Nobody but me.
That cover art turned me away.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. They literally took like a screenshot and they just edited the background away from this game. This game was made by Bandai Namco, or published by Bandai Namco, or Bandai at the time. Namco wasn't in the picture yet. But this game was rough. This was like the era of like character action games, and everybody wanted a piece of the pie, right? Mm-hmm. Real quick, Knight's Contract. That witch, you're like an executioner for that witch over there, and that witch curses you to be immortal, and the only way you die if she dies, and clearly your guy doesn't want to die, so she has to protect her to uncurse himself. And technically in the game, your guy doesn't die. Your life bar is that witch. So I don't know, you have it on the screen, Nick?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
so the way that grabs me is the UI.
Yeah, like, it's rough. Character design looked cool. The problem was that, look at that. The witch is like right next to the bad guys. She's your life bar. If she dies, you die. You fail the game. And she would stand in like lava and fire, and it was so frustrating because the AI was so bad.
Oh, so it's escort mission the game.
It is. And here's the thing, like, so your guy has life, right? And when he dies, he just falls apart. And then she would like come to you and build you back up and resurrect you, right? But while she's doing that, she can still get hit. So like, so pretty much when you die, you're dead because you can't trust the AI to help you out. Super unique game. I think this game was made by Konami, I think. But yeah, it was one of these rare games. I don't know if this is like expensive or not, but
Heinrich holds Gretchen both in her field.
Yep, he has to like pick her up. Yeah, it was. This is one of those like bargain bin games that you're like, what's this game? I'm gonna try it out. I only have $20, But yeah, I don't know if Konami will ever unleash Knight's Contract back out to the public, but I mean, it was a vibe. That's all I gotta say at the time. All right. Well, other games that came out that weren't as horrible as Knight's Contract, Double Dragon 3 on the Sacred Stones on the Nintendo in 1991 in Japan, Shadow of Destiny on the PS2 in 2001 in Japan, JSRF Jet Set Radio Future on the Xbox in 2002 in Japan, Kessen 3 on the PS2 in 2005. Metal Slug 6 came out in the arcade in 2006 in Japan. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn on the Wii on 2007 in Japan. Killzone 3, the last time we'll ever see Killzone on the PS3 in 2011. And Like a Dragon Ishin on the PS3 in Japan before America ever heard of it. And Hunt Showdown on the PC in 2018 as well. So All right, so I see a Dragon Ishin here highlighted, specifically the PS3 version.
Yeah, so this was the 2014 release. For me, especially, this was one of those games, and I know my boy Andre's here in the chat, but the Like a Dragon or Ryuga Gotoku games, I love them so much. Yakuza games. Ishin was the one that was only available in Japan. As you can see on the screen, this is, as we know now, it was the one that took place in like the Edo period Japan, essentially, and we never got it in the West for the longest time. Anytime they were coming out with new Yakuzas or coming out with HD remakes, everyone's like, "Where's Ishin or Kenzen? Where are the two uh, Japanese samurai ones set in the Yakuza universe? Like,
Mhm.
where are they? We never got them." So a buddy of ours, when I was working at the castle, went to Japan, and I begged him to buy me a copy of Ishin
That's awesome.
on the PS3, and he found the PS4 version for me at one of at Super Potato, I think, over there, and brought it back for me. So I had a copy of it, and the moment I got it, I'm like, "Oh man, this is so awesome! I can play it on my PS4 because it's region free. I can't wait to get into this game." And then 3 or 4 months later, they announced the the update HD release, and I was like, "No!" After all this time of just wanting it, yeah, no, I love these games so much, no matter
And
how
just
much.
yeah, just watching it up here right now, it definitely looks like something I want to get my hands on because the first thing that I think of is Samurai Western on the PS2.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
I mean, my man did a Kamehameha wave in the first 30 seconds. Of this. Well, what is this? And then he pulled out a gun afterwards. So,
Yeah, and like Andre said, the big deal was they weren't sure this was going to be big in the U.S. And honestly, the Yakuza series wasn't really big until they came out on Game Pass and more people got their hands on it. When it became free to more people, or essentially free, more eyes got on it. Microsoft realized it was kind of a cash cow. It was kind of almost a not a huge get, but it was kind of a bigger get for Sega to let Microsoft get a hold of those, because I only
yeah.
knew them. Yakuza 1 and 2 were on the PS2,
Yep.
3 and Dead Souls on the original 2 on PS2, and then PS3 for the next ones. That's all you knew them as. So the fact that Xbox got them, I'm like, great. Now I have to buy them on this console. But then, yeah, it came to Game Pass. I got some of my friends interested in it. I know we talk about it a lot, but Zero was kind of the big one that got was easier for me to sell the series as an ambassador. You
Yeah.
have to play Zero. Zero is just the best distillation of all these things. One thing you can see watching this, Ishin is an older style of the Yakuza games. I'm just gonna say Yakuza, but the Like a
Yeah.
Dragon series. It's that older game design mentality that they had, so it's a little more slow, it's a little more plotting. It still had its crazy wackiness that was just so totally different from the melodrama of the main story. It is a little more difficult to go back and play a lot of these in succession, and especially Aces, you were talking about, playing samurai games or even samurai western games. You got games like Ghost of Tsushima out there, really steeped in that kind of thing, so you really have to be looking for this nowadays. It's not bad at all, but it's definitely I still would recommend playing Zero if you haven't. And then even if you like turn-based, jumping into Infinite Wealth and stuff, the more recent ones, it is harder to go back to these older ones when you've kind of experienced beyond that. Like you saw the people running around a second ago, when you were in town, it feels so sparse compared to what you get now.
True.
So you're saying is I should play this game first before I play any other Yakuza game?
You can if you're into the era, but honestly, it's one of those things play Zero first. Zero is so much fun, and there's so many good mini games in that one. It's a much better ambassador to the series that you can overlook some of these more older jank that some of them had that it's known for, kind of thing.
Okay.
So
And then
that's
there's
that's
also
just my take on it, though.
then there's also just the
Obviously,
simple fact that Zero is, Zero is the origin point for Kiryu and Majima. So, if you want to really get the lowdown on what makes those two central characters to the series so great, then
right.
you
So is
And
definitely
this
then you
want to
start
go
you start
for it.
getting attached again to these characters, and you don't see them in a bunch of releases, right? So we were waiting how long for Majima to have his game, and now he's going to be a pirate Yakuza.
Right?
All right, sure.
I mean, did these all take place in the different universe, or all the same universe?
So they are the same universe, and they kind of jump around the storyline a little bit. Once you start getting to like Yakuza 4, for example, you get like a bigger crew. You can play as like 4 playable characters,
Yeah.
and you kind of get to know their stories a little bit and how they kind of interconnect. So it kind of expands from there, and then it kind of contracts again because after 4 you had 5, which was just more of 4, and then 0 went back to the beginning and didn't cover every character. Like a lot of like long-term fans of the series will tell you they're waiting to hear from like what happened to Akiyama, for example. Like I'll just say that name. It doesn't mean crap to you right now,
Yeah, I
but
was like, "Ooh."
it's one of those things. Like he was one of the playable characters that was kind of a fan favorite, not as much as like Majima was, but it's that kind of thing where you get attached to these characters, you kind of see it expand and then contract again. You're like, where are these stories? Where are these characters?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why Ishin, I don't outright recommend it to people. It's a cool thing for the period drama that it is. Essentially, you got to really be looking for that vibe. But if you're looking to get into like a Dragon, Zero is fantastic, and I'll say that nonstop.
No, it's on my to-do list also, so surprised I didn't make it my Y for my ADC gaming, but that list was already loaded anyway. So
Well, if anything, I'm always happy if we ever want to do just a stream of that, just to play the first little bit. I love Zero so much, and I'm sure Andre will watch it with us. Like it is such a good game, and it's so much fun, and I will nonstop play the cabaret mini game.
all right. Well, on that note, let's get on to some gaming news with quick bites with the Tragically Elite. It's so like ominous.
It is a little ominous.
Hey,
So
man.
I know once again we don't want to take too much time, and I don't want to shout too much and wake up my wife in the other room. But I've got some more bite-sized content for you guys, some more news just to talk it out a little bit, keep you in the know. I know since we do this weekly, it's a little hard to kind of keep track of some of the news. You get a lot of days to cover, so I kind of like just to throw some quick stuff together. You two on the panel, my close faculty friends, we've been talking about Kingdom Come Deliverance too a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's been doing pretty well. Well, it has just sold 2 million units, and it has done that in 2 weeks. So that's right on the
Jesus
back of us talking about how it just
Christ.
hit like peak Steam counts in the
Mhm.
last week, right? Um, that is also right on the back of Warhorse Studio, the devs behind it, announcing mod support coming to Steam for it. So they're just going to keep expanding on this thing. But yeah, 2 million units in 2 weeks. And that is a massive, massive thing. And the next little bit of news I want to share, Ace, this is definitely for you. Don't let that number like downplay you. It's just the style of game. It blew up. A lot of people like it.
Oh yeah.
Dynasty Warriors Origins has also passed a sales milestone.
Mm-hmm.
It has just sold over 1 million copies globally. That is over 28 days, if I remember right. Yeah, 28 days. So maybe not as quick as Kingdom Come Deliverance, but for a return, a reboot for a series we haven't seen something from in over 7 years, 1 million is pretty damn good.
Heck
But
yeah.
yeah,
1 million in the first month, usually like even before, games hitting, those kind of blockbuster numbers like, KCD2 doing 2 million in 2 weeks. Like
right.
1 million in the first month was kind of like, that was the goal. That was what a lot of developers and a lot of publishers were pushing for. So the fact that, especially something like Dynasty Warriors of all things, you know, not necessarily the most beloved series, out there in the industry, but again, the fact that Dynasty Warriors Origins was actually do so well and that the reboot was actually able to capture so much of a big player base. It's great to see.
Yeah, it is great to see. Excellent, excellent job to both those teams. And again, Kingdom Come Deliverance, the fact that it sold that much, that means it's already made its money back. It is
Oh,
now profitable already, 2 weeks in. That is
Was
insane.
was the first one that popular? That
The first
popular?
one, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I remember it was one of those like long burn ones. It was always like pretty well regarded. It had pretty like above average reviews.
Yeah.
I remember it kind of being talked about as kind of like one of those slower kind of burn RPG kind of things, like really
mhm.
in-depth world.
Yeah.
That didn't really speak to everyone, but 2 just improved on all that. They leaned into the things that were really good about it. The reviews for it have been great. People have been talking about it, been hitting Steam peaks, and the fact that it's already sold 2 million units is really speaking to the quality of the game is behind it. Even if you're not a fan of those kind of games, it's worth checking out just to see what's going
Yeah.
on.
Well,
But insane. Yeah, couple sales goals. I don't know if you two are familiar with the My Nintendo Gold points, but those are going to be discontinued on March
I am.
25th after a 7
Mhm.
run. If you're not familiar with it was their loyalty program that was used towards eShop purchases. So when you actually earned, I think it was 5% of what you spent on digital copies back in those gold points, 1% on physical. But their platinum points aren't going anywhere, but kind of just a crazy thing where after 7 years, gold points are gone, no longer going to be a thing right before the Switch 2 comes out. So
Of course.
if you've got any left, they are going to be good for 1 year. So you can still have them, just spend them before they're completely gone.
Yeah.
Uh,
Gotcha.
I know that you two are fans of fighting games. Fatal Fury City of Wolves has revealed all of the characters for Season 1 Pass. Anything that you two saw from that list of 5 fighters that stands out to you?
Uh, well, I'm still over the moon that Capcom and SNK are actually doing the collaboration with Ken and Chun Li, and it looks like Ken is actually going to be coming out like pretty early after release alongside Andy.
Yeah.
Also, it's good to see both Andy and Joe coming back. Like the other two out of the original Fatal Fury 3, but there was some talk about how some folks weren't necessarily happy about Joe and Andy being DLC. But to counteract that, if you buy the game, even if it's like within the first week after release, you still get the first season's roster for free. Just boom, add it onto the game right there for you. So if you pick up the game, then as the first season goes along, you will still get those characters added. So technically, technically Joe and Andy aren't paid DLC, but you still gotta wait for them. But there's gonna be so much in the base game already, just right out of the box, that you'll still be busy with it at the very least, by the time Andy and Ken hit the roster.
Yeah,
And
that's one thing I do like, the fact that it kind of like it goes across other games too, and it makes sense for the games that they're including. Sorry, James, you were gonna say?
I was gonna say, to add on that, Garo, however you want to say it, did not have Andy and Joe, so you shouldn't expect Andy and Joe in this version of the
Right.
sequel of Garo.
Right. And right. Andy and Joe were definitely more in the background as far
Yeah.
as even like the established story for Garo. So, the fact that
Right.
they're now playable but still, DLC, it makes sense because of their diminished role, especially since there are legacy characters related to those two in the game.
Yeah.
So you get Andy and Ken in summer, Joe in fall, Chun Li in winter, and then early 2026 you get Mr. Big from Art of Fighting.
Yep, that's my character.
Mr. Big.
I mean, he's got a pimp coat with a goatee and a bald head. I'm just
Not
saying.
surprised. Not surprised.
It's about time to get some representation up in here.
Jeez. All right, after Fatal Fury, let's talk about Valve again. We were talking recently how they changed some of the rules with games coming on Steam and those games with ads and how ad revenue, if that's the main purpose of the game, that's not going to work. However, we now know that Valve has announced their schedule for sales in 2025. Link is in the chat. Thank you, James. So now we know for the entire year when all of those promotional price drops are happening. So not only the major like seasonal ones, but some of the more regular ones. If you check out that list, there's going to be things like the City Builder and Colony Sim Fest. We do have, of course, the spring sale, the summer sale. There's going to be a race fest, a 4X fest, third person shooter fest. A lot of cool things. Check it out. Add
Just
that to your calendar.
Yeah, just having a list like that is so like I really appreciate that because again, I'm all about people being able to make informed decisions with their purchases.
Hey man,
So
that's why we have value. That's why we talk about this stuff. We talk about it in groups with our friends. Why not share it with the crew here on the stream? It's one of
mhm.
those things that it's important to me because that's when I can actually buy some of the games that I've had on my wish list for a while. That when it hits that kind of price, where I'm like, okay, I can afford to pick this up. So definitely add that to your list. Check out some of those ones, and I'm gonna probably check out some of the like smaller promotional ones as well, because I love 4X games, so I've already got that on my calendar. But it kind of goes on the back of, in January 2025, Steam has reached a new record for concurrent users. 39.3 million people, concurrent users on Steam. It is massive. So get those sales while you can. Moving on to the next thing. It's crazy, right? I just passed 21 years of service. I got the 21-year badge on my Steam profile. It is old enough to buy a drink. That makes me feel old, and it reminds me of the Counter-Strike days. Speaking of Counter-Strike Lite, actually, the next point I was going to bring up, have you two heard Rainbow Six Siege is getting a showcase on March 13th? So this is something that was announced very recently, I believe in the last day or so. But I don't know why this is important. We've been talking a lot about live service games lately. I know Sony's been in the news a lot lately about those. Rainbow Six Siege, if you remember, did not start out as live service. It started out as just kind of like a Counter-Strike like game that was kind of like heavy feeling. Didn't do well. Kind of got really bad reviews, didn't do great. It went live service, and then it had success. That's when Siege really took off. Well, Siege is 10 years old now, and it's still around, and it's still making money. So the Rainbow Six Siege showcase they're getting is a Siege X. Basically, it's going to be the next generation of Rainbow Six Siege. So it's kind of cool to think that, unlike some of the failures we've seen lately from live service, this is looking to like redo its lifespan. It's going to have new modes, new graphical updates, all of it to refresh and transform it again. We're just wondering, will it work? Do you two think it will work? The fact that it's been around this long, the fact that they're like trying to build the next 10 years, essentially, they're taking this live service game and like doing something new with it. It almost feels like a sequel-ish kind of thing, but it's built on that same live platform. I guess we'll find out more on March 13th when it hits, but just wondering what you two thought about that.
The fact that it's been around for so long, like GTA, it reminds me of how long GTA 5's been around. Because
probably we're not going to have to rebuy it so many times, luckily. But with all the content
both of those games have stayed so consistent across like 3 different console generations. It's wild.
Yeah, say what you will, but Siege did find its fan base. It's still growing. It's still going strong. It's still making money, which in today's day and age, with stuff like Concord hitting, Overwatch 2 doing what it's doing, hopefully it can turn things around again with what they've been saying now. But it's kind of cool to see. I guess you could say in a sense of just like this platform working, and it's looking to like revitalize and reboot, not just doing like a Destiny 1 done, we're going to Destiny 2. It's like, no, we're taking Siege and we're building it for the next bit. All right, so that was the quick bites, but now we're going to do a little bit of rumor mill. Again, I had to look how people asking me about rumors and stuff. As always, I want to preface this, take it as a grain of salt. It's not always true, but it's kind of starting that little bit of conversation. So in chat, let me know what you think about some of these. We have heard from Nash Weedle, who predicted the Metroid Dread release back in the day, has also leaked now that Metroid Prime 4 might already be in development. So we don't even have a release date for 4 yet, but there's rumors that 5 is actually being done in development concurrently with 4.
That's crazy, because it's like, how do you know to make 5 when 4 hasn't been done yet? Like the reception of 4.
Right, and that's a good discussion point. One thing you can say, though, is it's been in development for so long, possibly rebooted a couple times, and we've seen plenty of times in modern gaming where they will design multiple games in a row. We were talking about Mass Effect earlier. They were developing 2 or ideas for 2 while 1 was already going. So it's not unheard of. Plus, if this is true, we don't know how far along in development it is in. But the fact that it may already have been started, they can see legs on this, or you can infer that they think 4 is going to do something, or maybe narratively they've built something that's going to lead itself to 5 right away.
Okay. That's true, because like development can just could be them like writing stuff on a piece of paper,
right? True. Yeah, that little napkin in the cafe,
exactly. The bar, talking to whoever.
and someone picked up and like, hey man, they're doing 5 already. Just watch out. So the hits also keep on coming for PS and their live service games, and a new rumor, according to an insider, Fair Games, the competitive heist shooter announced at the 2023 PlayStation Showcase, might have been delayed until 2026. So this is the first party team at Haven Studios. It's their debut project, and that's from Jade Raymond, who is the AC veteran. So that's where she's at right now. I don't know if you two remember when that trailer hit, like kind of like Eat the Rich kind of thing, doing heists together, really like high energy.
Yeah, I remember.
It's in the Game Awards, right?
That was at the PlayStation Showcase in 2023, but it was like fair game with the $S at the end. Yeah, you can look at the trailer online, but it was just kind of an interesting rumor that this game, which we've been kind of, some people have been waiting for, I guess I'd say. I know when we're talking about live services and stuff, I remember there was a lot of pushback when that trailer first came out, but the fact that it's coming from a big industry veteran, it's their first project, and we still haven't seen something from it, and now it's rumored to be delayed again, I don't know if that's a good sign. At the same time, discussion point for you guys, we've been talking about all these live service games from Sony's that have been canceled. Remember the one from Blue Point, the one from Ben Studios, 2 live service games. This one they decided not to can. So they've got to be feeling pretty good about this one coming out, even if it was delayed a little bit.
Well, the competitive heist shooter sounds like if Payday had a multiplayer in its multiplayer, right? Because that's a heist shooter, but then now you're competing with another squad or whatever. Kind of reminds me of the finals, honestly, right?
Yeah, it could have that vibe, especially if you watch that trailer again. I could see why you'd say that.
Yeah, and I think like maybe they looked into how the finals was like, holding up, and also I think Payday is successful. They had 3 titles in it, right? And so they were like, all right, I think that will work. Let's just choose this one if we had to keep one.
And if there's people kind of looking for that Payday 3 like feel, because Payday 3 is kind of, it has not gone well under release.
The third one
has gone very poorly. Fair Games might be that area that people are looking for. I remember like that and like Den of Wolves, the trailer for the Den of Wolves game. Like I think there is a market for it, how it's done. I just remember that trailer hitting and the fact that it's potentially, again, rumored being delayed. Just wonder what you two thought with the changes with live service from Sony lately and the fact that this one is still going to be coming out.
My 2 cents on it, as long as the game looks cool, feels cool, hypes people up to play, right? People are going to buy it. Because like I said, I thought hero shooters were dead. Marvel Rivals came out and proved me wrong, and I'm okay with that because there was some value there for the people to play this game. And and when I ask why you play Marvel Rivals and not Overwatch 2, right? They like the Marvel background, the character art. Maybe it's third person versus first person. They like seeing their characters, right? And a lot of it was really like visuals. They love the visuals of the game. And the fact that it's not competitive, like it's not like super sweaty, like when it comes to like balance, it's still a bit jank, which is like what makes it fun. And a lot of people in the game space say like once you make this game super balanced, it's not going to be fun anymore. So I think that's like why it's not like if you want to be competitive, play Overwatch, but if you want more casual, play Rivals. And I think that's why there's more people playing Rivals. It's more casual per se. So.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Absolutely. It's once again, we keep talking about stuff during this that keeps leading to other points. Yeah. Well, let's just jump right to what you just mentioned, just because it's on my list already. Marvel Rivals, the team at NetEase, has laid off a Seattle-based team. So right in our backyard for us here, more layoffs in the industry. The reason I wanted to bring this up is just something right now, and definitely during like the rumor mill kind of thing, is because there's a lot of things going around right now. We don't know all the details. It sucks to hear about people losing their jobs. A lot of tweets have gone out, or a lot of comments have gone out about this, and there may have been some sensationalism with them. I won't call it any content creators in particular, but a few people have been starting to push back.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, just because the people that have gotten laid off, not to like diminish them losing their jobs, because I lost my job in tech. I know how much that sucked. I have a friend who went to NetEase after leaving our team. Like, based on what a lot of people have seen so far, they laid off a couple of the like directors and stuff at the American branch. This is not the main dev team at Marvel Rivals. So this is a team that was kind of like their Q&A, R&D level kind of stuff. So the stuff leading up to game release. So that doesn't mean that they would be essential to being there for the rest of the game. The rest of the dev team is there and making it as well. So it's not the director. It was the team lead director at the Seattle location for that team that was there in Seattle. Again, not to diminish that still sucks, especially right on the back of hearing like how much money Marvel Rivals is making.
Yeah, that's why it's surprising to have layoffs after success, which tells me it's like your job is not safe regardless of how successful your game is.
Right, and that's kind of what the conversation is around it. And we've seen it now for a while. Like companies are reporting these record profits, but we're seeing lots of people in the gaming space lose their jobs. So it could just be bad timing. It could be optics of it. That's why I kind of threw it in the rumor mill thing. But with those tweets coming out, they're a little misleading. But yeah, just kind of a little food for thought. Before we jump too much further, I do want to bring up one other thing. Actually, two other things. Rockstar could be planning to allow GTA 6 users to make user-generated content in the next release for online. Similar to trends we're seeing in stuff like Roblox and Fortnite, this could show their want for their open world of GTA Online to be even more popular, because we've seen how well this kind of stuff does in those other titles like Roblox and Fortnite. So just kind of an interesting thing to bring up. That is not confirmed at all. Again, this is part of the rumor mill, but it sounds like they're kind of leaning in that direction to allow user-made content. So just imagine all those content creators putting stuff up online. You're going to get so many ads in GTA Online. You get Beast Game cars, man. Just can't wait. One last rumor for the road. Assassin's Creed Shadows is due to launch on March 20th. Do you think you guys are going to be playing that on the 20th, or do you think it's going to get delayed again?
I'm going to be waiting regardless if it's released or not.
Yeah, that's fair. How about you, Ace?
Isn't March 20th? Isn't that the same day that the first Berserker is releasing? It's either that or Xenoblade Chronicles Cross on the Switch.
Either way, they did push it to there, so we can check online to substantiate that. But there's actually been some reports from industry insiders, this one from Tom Henderson, claimed that multiple sources in Ubisoft has said that the studio is confident it will now be released on time. It has even made preparations to increase its spending on its marketing ahead of release. So it sounds like, rumor mill-wise, this is going to be the final release date, no more pushbacks, and they are very confident about it. But again, never say never when it comes to delays, right?
Yeah, just make it good, man. That's all I ask for. Just make it good. Push it back as long as you want. But I know the what do you call this? The investors want their Q1 numbers in.
Right. Right. So, last little bit, I did have a couple more things, but again, we're getting a little bit later in the night. I can save our articles for other things, but I just wanted to kick off a quick little discussion with you guys because it is in the news. We do talk about gaming stuff, and there's some cool stuff there. Did you two watch the PlayStation State of Play?
Did.
Yeah.
What stood out for you guys? Let's hear about it.
Tides of Annihilation. There are so few games out there that actually, take Arthurian legends and folklore and utilize it as part of their content. You've got the Fate games, obviously. You've got some of the older titles like Knights of the Round, obviously. But seeing something like Tides of Annihilation, seeing basically, Chaos Legion, but as a character action game that focuses more on Arthurian legends, it looks really cool, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more gameplay from it.
Cool.
Well, do you want to toss that up while I got it going?
Yeah. Well, what's that? You have it on screen?
Yeah.
I didn't. Is it on Discord?
No, it's in the.
I don't see anything on the. Oh, share screen. Okay, gotcha. Oh yeah, so I was gonna say, like, if you're looking for, let's go ahead and remove this real quick. If you're looking for Arthurian legend. I put it on the chat there. That's actually on my list to play on my 80s gaming list, King Arthur Knight's Tale, which is basically Arthurian legend with XCOM. So keep that in mind if you like that kind of stuff. But yeah, for the State of Play, Lost Souls aside, because I've been hounding that game since Final Fantasy 15. I just thought it was super cool looking, and to add Tides of Annihilation to that, kind of like the same genre per se, I was like, wow, a bonus, right? Super cool on that. I was kind of like on the state of play, and it's a biased response because historically, I feel like the state of play has always been like a unique Sony event for me, where like I want Sony things announced, right? And this time it's only been kind of like third party. And so I don't know, maybe that's the direction they want to take. I did read something from Yoshida talking to Jim Ryan about like he wanted to take Sony more indies versus first party at the time. So I don't know if that article is old or not, but I can see now the fruits of that labor, that decision, right? That Sony's going third party and not first party, and so. Not that it's bad. I'm just saying that my expectation, and this is why you should temper them every time you do something like this, is that state of play is always like the announcement for something Sony exclusive. So I was hoping for a Bloodborne 2 tease or something, right? But nothing like that. But like this game right here is technically the sequel to Returnal.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so I was like, okay, this will do. Kind of like that. Because I was looking for that Sony only thing, kind of like when Microsoft had their like Gears announcement, right? So I was expecting this to be it.
And technically, you could say that Lost Soul Aside would count as Sony only, since
True. They are fronting the money for it,
right? Because they fronted the money for it, but it was initially developed during the China Hero event. The fact that event that it was initially developed in, that was a Sony event.
Oh yeah, that's right. That last one that we had where there was all like the Chinese games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this looks pretty cool. I don't know, like Returnal was pretty good, so I think this one would be even cooler.
Yeah, and also Lies of P, Iceborne. I mean, God, I already forgot what the actual subtitle was for that, but I just call it Iceborne because it literally looks like it looks like the same kind of expansion for Lies of P that Iceborne was for Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Saros. Yeah, the other games didn't really like stick to me. I thought they were kind of like we've been there, done that, kind of generic. And maybe it's just me being old as a gamer. Like I don't want to say this, but I have no other way to say it. I felt like I've already played everything, right? Like the genre, archetype, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's all these distinctive small changes in games that happen, and you just kind of pick an aesthetic, kind of like when you're watching a movie. Like I want to play like something sci-fi, right? So maybe I'll try this game, kind of like this, right? But it takes like right now, I am on that nostalgia train where I'm like, oh my god, they're remaking Einhander. That's so cool. Like I would be happy over that over like this game because I feel like I've already played this game when it was called something else. You know what I'm saying? So it is cool, but it's just nothing exciting for me. But maybe that just comes with my age.
I mean, possibly. Yeah, there was some really cool stuff. Like you mentioned, Monster Hunter Wilds was right at the top. Lost Soul Aside is another one I was looking at. I'll see if I pull up a trailer of that. Seemed like it was super interesting. For me, there was a few things that I felt kind of stole the show for me. Watching this Onimusha trailer and like hearing the protagonist talk and the comments that he makes, the voice acting, hilarious. I love the character in this, and I'm sold on it now. Like it sold me, and I wasn't a big Onimusha fan in the past. I didn't play them in the day. I played them after the fact. I talked about my love for Onimusha 3, and I want Jean Renault back. But this sold me. Just hearing like the quips he has is kind of like
just seeing how much a jackass Musashi is.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it. For me, it was also obviously we heard that Pirate Yakuza gets a demo. Got a demo that week. Ichiban is in Dave the Diver as like a crossover.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So those kind of jokes aside, how much I love those. We did get a launch date for Borderlands 4. I'm really interested to see a couple things just for the fact, and I had a discussion with my buddy about this. We all play the Borderlands games. It looks like more Borderlands, but with more movement. We saw that kind of ripcord thing, more gore, more of that kind of over the top kind of feel from it, but it still looked and felt like Borderlands. One thing that I did notice, and he pointed it out first, was that they haven't shown anything about the characters, like the heroes at all. like at all. I think there was some rumors about them being like fully customizable, but that you don't know if that's going to pull away from the story of them. But the fact that they haven't shown them beyond the original like announcement trailer kind of thing, it just feels like they're an afterthought. And Borderlands is about those heroes and how they interact, or like anti-heroes almost, how they interact with the world and the story, especially after how the story was dropped for a lot of people in 3, myself included. So I'm a little nervous about that. I liked that Split Fiction is still being talked about. Looks great. Hell is Us is looking moody as hell. We got a release date for that. Tides Annihilation. There's also that Saros game that we were looking at as well. That's something I'm interested in. It was a really cool announcement trailer. Obviously, we don't know much about it beyond that yet. And yeah, like you said, there's just a lot of stuff lately that we're kind of learning more about, and we're watching these and like, it looks like I've played this before. So Mind's Eye looked interesting as well, but it's like it looks very similar to something else I played. It doesn't quite stand out. So this is going to be like one of those ones where it's got to depend on the story. It was just kind of like, okay, I will see kind of thing. Not that it's bad, just with everything else that's out there and what we saw. I know a lot of people were disappointed, but that's always what these kind of state of plays have been. One thing I didn't mention during my rumor mill stuff was the PlayStation Showcase might be coming back. There was another insider kind of talking about, it says a credible insider, but I don't know how credible because I don't have the link. But they're internally debating holding one this summer. So the showcase hasn't been done for a while because the last one that happened kind of got meh response to it. So they've been doing these state of plays, which are fine, but the showcase is a lot like those bigger ones. Those were the big announcements are. That's where
those are probably
really
that's probably what I was thinking about when I was saying like I want a Sony thing related.
Right.
Also,
so sounds like that may be coming back.
Mind's Eye, was that 101 or IOI Interactive? The developer for that? That this, because I can tell you why I think that's who this is. It is
IOI Partners.
So they helped made Hitman, but I think they also helped make Kane and Lynch. Is that right?
Oh, so you're kind of getting Kane and Lynch vibes from him?
This is a Kane and Lynch game, like what I'm noticing a little bit, like the developer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And also, really quickly, one thing that took me by surprise from the state of play, a new Digimon story game.
Oh, that's right, Digimon Story Time Stranger. We got a new Digimon game.
Time Stranger sounds awful, but okay.
I mean, it's more Digimon, and
yeah, no, it looks cool.
I have the Digimon story games, and those are damn solid JRPGs. So
this looks like a John Wick game without John Wick. The one we just saw, Mind's Eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm excited for all these games. It just wasn't like, I don't know. I had during COVID, when they announced stuff during COVID, I was like more hyped for everything. Maybe I was just a different time, different place, but like I was just so with like this one. But I was just really happy to see this because I know this was announced a long time ago, and I was like, "What's the update on this thing? Wasn't this thing made by one dude?"
Mm-hmm.
That's the other like,
yeah.
That's why I was like, "Man, this is impressive for one guy." I can't even barely do math.
And even if it's not my like for me, what stood out when I watched over these shots right here, the world,
super
incredible.
cool.
The world design is fantastic. It's incredible, like eye popping. The character design's not as much for me, but like that's just the style of the game, whatever. But the world's like I immediately caught onto that. There's some incredible looking worlds. Interested to see where it goes. It may not be a game that I pick up, but I definitely want some gameplay at least of it. And I, like you said, if maybe one dude, like it's
impressive.
Another testament to what you can find.
Yeah, impressive. Yeah, it's like 15 mixed with Devil May Cry. That's exactly what it reminds me of. It's super cool. We'll see. I mean, gameplay is going to be super important for a game like this. Neat.
That's all I got for articles, guys. I won't dive too much deeper. I did have a couple articles about Phil Spencer on Xbox era, so some interesting bits we could talk about next week, just about what he talked about the future of Xbox. I know that one thing I did want to call out is he does stand fast about having other consoles or platforms logos in their announcement videos. So it's
Really?
kind of breaking the mold. So anytime you see stuff and it's on a different platform, they put PlayStation logos and Nintendo Switch logos in their showcases and stuff from now on. So pretty
Oh,
cool, kind of breaking the norm. You can see where you get those different things on the different platforms. So, we can have a discussion at a different time about, should the ones follow suit, but just kind of a cool thing that I came across while I was checking out the news. Appreciate you standing by and hearing me chat.
always, man. That's super cool. I learned some stuff tonight. That's all I gotta say. I learned some stuff.
Hey, and if anything, Ace, you've got a calendar now for sales on Steam, and that's all
Yes,
that matters.
that is still like that. That's a legit game changer. Just knowing when the sales are coming up, so that way you can plan for them.
Yeah, because you don't want to buy something that's not on sale and immediately have it be on sale like 2 days later, and you're like, "What the heck? I should have just waited."
Right.
But speaking of Ace, I'm excited for this one because this is a game I have yet to play. Let's go teach some stuff. Teach with the tech.
All right. Looks like we're going to be rounding out the class with we're going to be dipping a little bit back into the backlog. Well, maybe further than one would think, because this particular title came out back in, what was it, 2022? But again, seeing as how Monster Hunter is coming out next week, I figure there's some other games out there that people might want to at the very least give a look. And besides, I got plenty of stuff in the backlog, and someone's got to put these games to work.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to play this, so I want to learn. Teach me some stuff.
So let's get right down to it. We are going to be diving into God Eater 3. Now, the reason I'm diving into 3 as opposed to the first one is because what we're going to be covering, at the very least within these next few minutes, what we're going to be covering will basically take you from the first game through to the third. And this is one where you can actually jump into 3 and still get into the story, but I highly recommend, just like Nick recommends jumping onto Yakuza 0 if you want to get into that series. I recommend, if you can, purchase God Eater 2.
Why the second one? If you don't mind me asking.
Why the second one?
Yeah,
because normally it's bundled with the first.
Okay, so value. From a value standpoint, you get 2 games for the price of 1.
Exactly. So if you can, purchase 2. Make sure you get it bundled with 1, so that way you can play 1 first. But let's just get right down to it. So, Monster Hunter, you got that big release coming next week. But as we said earlier, competition breeds innovation. And with, the other different monster hunting titles out there, like God Eater, Tokiden, Wild Hearts, Ragnarok Odyssey, Ace, there's a lot to choose from. And for someone that might want to get into Monster Hunter, you'll probably want to check out some of these other games just to, help you get your feet wet. Now, the God Eater series is definitely more of a arcade style take on the monster hunting genre. It's definitely more fast paced, and especially with the Bandai Namco games, with God Eater, with the God Eater series, definitely, the story and the characters are more in the forefront. But one of the staples, a staple of the monster hunting genre is, the different weapons that you can actually, have access to and utilize as you are facing off against your opponents. And one in particular that always has a variant is the short sword. It's your basic go-to weapon. It's fast. It's versatile. In Monster Hunter, you're looking at the sword and shield, for something comparable speed-wise. But let me go ahead and jump into a mission really quickly. In fact, you know what? Let's see if we can actually jump into... there we go. Actually, this right here, the D7 certification, should work out nicely.
The D7 certification.
Now, just going by looks alone, you can already tell, this is going to have a different flavor compared to Monster Hunter, which is, a little bit more photorealistic. God Eater is definitely the more anime.
Love it.
But just jumping into the gameplay itself, jumping into, how it feels on the ground.
Is this a direct sequel to 2, like story wise?
Yes, it is. It is a direct sequel to 2. There is one game that hasn't released in the States that came before that, which is God Eater Resonant Ops, which is more of a tactical RPG that bridges the gap between 2 and 3. But this is still a sequel set basically in the same world.
Okay. Far in the future.
Oh, damn it. I
do remember playing the demo in this, and it was pretty cool. What I noticed from the demo that I played on 3, there's more movement in this one, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, there is. There is definitely more movement in this one, and it's more movement even compared to 1 and 2.
Oh, sweet.
So again, I suggest playing 1 and 2 so that way you can get that attachment to the characters, and then that attachment to the characters in the world, and then jump into 3 to see just how much it changes the game comparatively. Where are we? No. Shooting Star Guardian, no. That's not the one I want. Actually, here we go. Sorry for taking so long to get it all loaded up for y'all.
Oh, you're good. This was on my to playlist during the COVID era, but I can't remember what happened because I remember like I'm gonna play this demo, and if I like it, I'm gonna continue playing it. Mm-hmm. Something must have released to stop me from continuing because I was like on a God Eater trend at the time.
Wouldn't be surprised. But
COVID times were a time sink, man. It was a Vorpal time sink.
You know what's funny? I think it was Hunt Showdown that stopped me from playing this game.
Oh yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah, it was anyway, go ahead.
Now, again, showing off, just basic movement in the game. You're definitely going to be, taking on more high speed operations compared to the slower, more methodical hunts like Monster Hunter. With your basic weapon with your short sword, you've got your basic attack strings. Again, this is definitely one of the more high mobility weapons, one of the faster weapons. One of the different things between this and Monster Hunter is that, getting your materials from monsters. That's pretty transform your weapon into the same kind of monster you're fighting, and you devour your enemies.
Reminds me of Final Fantasy VIII. Steal their powers.
Basically, yeah. If you use Devour while the monsters are still on the move, then yeah, you steal their abilities. You can steal, specialized bullets, or at least you can get the specialized bullets in 1 and 2. But here it actually triggers a burst mode for your character.
I love how that's also the short sword. It's already longer than the guy's body.
The weapon I had earlier was one of the long swords.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's 3 sword types in the game. There's the short sword, long sword, and buster sword.
What's the buster one? Like super heavy?
Mm-hmm. Yep, super heavy. Like if you play great sword, or if you play the heavy sword in Monster Hunter, if you go for the meaty chops, buster sword and God Eater is going to be.
That's what the buster sword. Okay.
Yep, cool. That's going to be your go-to. Dang it, Zeke! Why'd you beat him so fast?
Damn it, Zeke! Why you gotta be so good?
But the short sword, again, you use it for quick strikes, and the secondary attack button on it is for more, stabs and piercing strikes.
Cool.
So you can do slashing and piercing damage, which will have different effects based on the armor of the monster that you're facing off against. Now, each weapon also has a certain special action that it has, and with the short sword, you can transition from ground to aerial combat almost on the fly.
Is this the equivalent to dual blades in the Monster Hunter, or is it just a sword and shield?
Sword and shield.
Okay.
Now, the other thing that actually sets God Eater apart from Monster Hunter is that the equipment that you set up is literally, you have your melee weapon, which can also transition into your long-range weapons, so stuff like sniper rifles, shotguns, machine guns, a laser gun in this one. But also, you have your shield built in, as well. And you have 3 different types of shields you can use: bucklers, shields, and tower shields.
It's all coming back to me now.
Just each with varying speeds of deployment and, varying stopping power and defensive power built into them. So it's like if you want to, if you're playing Monster Hunter and you're more of a Blade Master type, you prefer your melee, then God Eater's got something for you. If you're more of a gunner, God Eater's got something for you. And plenty more besides, because aside from, in Monster Hunter, you can, put together different types of ammo for your bows, or you can put together different types of files for like your bow guns and for your stuff like your charge blade and your switch axe, right? But in this, long range takes on a whole new dimension.
Hammer of Dawn.
Because what you have access to, let me go into the loadout here. What you have access to is not just your guns.
So is that a pile bunker?
Bullets.
That's a sniper rifle. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just a sniper rifle, and like I said, your sniper rifle is also built into your melee weapon, which is also built into your shields.
Cool.
But with your firearms, you can actually go into not only selecting different types of bullets for your firearms, but crafting custom bullets.
Crafting, you say?
Speaking this man's language.
So you can literally go in and set up different modules to edit what your bullet does on firing, the angle that it flies at, what it does when it makes impact, how, the timing of various other effects that happens after, various other effects that happen after firing or after it makes impact. So, on button press, actually, let me go ahead and just, pop into the preview.
The dev must have watched Wanted when playing this. Curve your bullet.
Pretty much.
Wow, that's pretty detailed.
And
I've never seen bullet crafting before. That's new.
So yeah, kind of like how they do, kind of like how the gun crafting goes in Resonance of Fate.
Yeah.
That's how in depth, how crazy it can get. Just again with the different effects that you can put together.
I think that's cool because if you're like wanting to choose the gunner route in this game, you have more, you have more agency how to choose your gun, your warfare, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
And again, as I mentioned, just the different gun types that you have. You have your assault guns, which are your machine guns. You can rapid fire them once you deploy the gun, and the special ability, the special movement option that the machine gun has is that you can actually do like a forward dash while still firing. So that's even more mobility. With the shotgun, you actually have a back step, so that way when you fire, you can get more of a spread on a single target.
Oh, super cool.
Sniper rifles, you can actually set up a stealth field, so that way monsters don't hear your footsteps or don't hear any sort of sounds that you're making on approach. And with the ray guns here, you can actually chamber more energy, so that way you can fire the guns for longer. Now, again, with this, I just took y'all through one of the melee weapon types while briefly going over all of the, comparatively smaller or at least more condensed listings of, firearms and shields. The short sword is a great starter weapon if you want to actually get into the game and just, get a feel for the more high-speed play style that you're going to get accustomed to when you're playing through God Eater. But again, there are other melee weapon types to choose from and to craft as you go through and take out the different origami in the game. Again, there's your short blade, there's your long blade, which is, your longer swords, which have, more damage, more reach, but it's a little slower. Your buster blades, which are, of course, meaty chops. The
chops,
the big ones.
yeah. Cool.
These tend to do more slashing and crushing damage, and you'll even find certain club type weapons that actually go into the Buster Blade category.
I don't know why. I just thought the 50 Cent in the club song stuck in my head. Just hitting the monster with that soundtrack.
And speaking of clubs, boost hammers.
Let's go.
So yeah, you got your hammers, or in this case, rocket-propelled hammers.
Even better.
That's a weaponry right there.
And again, as this game focuses on mobility, you can actually get a surprising amount of movement out of a boost hammer when you use its special abilities. We'll go more into that once we actually cover that weapon. You also have, of course, your lances, which are even more aerial based. So literally, if you wanted to play a dragoon, the lance is going to be right there for you. That is a specifically piercing type weapon. So if you've got monsters that you can like pinpoint their soft spots, Lancers are going to do you pretty solid. Then you've got your scythes. With the scythes, you don't just have the long reach of a pole arm, but you can also extend the scythe even further for wider ranging swings, and also unique ability where certain hits can actually drain hit points from your opponents. So if you're looking for something, where you've got offensive recovery, scythe is definitely something to take a look at. And the two new weapon types that were added to God Eater 3, the Biting Edge, which is your dual blades, but dual blades that can also be linked together for a glaive style weapon.
So that's pretty sweet.
And then you got the Heavy Moon, which is a crescent blade on a polearm. You can swing it around kind of like, a chakram that you don't throw. But that weapon can also convert into a battle axe with a running chainsaw blade.
I know a bat lift when I see one, all right? That's what the Klingons use.
But again, God Eater takes the same formula that takes a lot of the same formula from Monster Hunter, but again, it's an entirely different spin, even just from discussion of the weapons and the mobility in the game. And if you're looking into something that might help you get into Monster Hunter, you could do worse.
I mean, it looks interesting and fun. It looks like, to me, at first glance, futuristic Monster Hunter with the anime vibe to it, right? So
it's anime. It's Monster Hunter with a little bit of Horizon, but anime.
That's true. It is post-apocalyptic, from what I remember.
And that right there is, although it's a more extended session, that right there is going to do it for this week's edition of the Tech.
What's that child when you talk to her?
We will definitely be getting more into more specific weapons and the weapon types in future weeks. So if you definitely want to, if you want to get a little bit more info on this, then by all means.
Do you have what do you call this, like a video on your channel of God Eater that you can link, people can watch?
Actually, I know I streamed it recently, so I can definitely
pop it in the chat.
Yep, I can definitely take a look here and see where is it. Oh yeah, it was quite literally yesterday's stream. So let me go ahead and get that. Link pulled up for y'all.
All right. While he's doing that, I mean, Ace, I saw you playing Warriors Abyss today. I know. So I know what you're playing. I still crushing that list on A to Z Gaming Challenge. Playing Gears of War Tactics, and just finished my first boss, which is a Brumac. I 4v1 to Brumac, and Brumac won 8 times before I actually beat the stage. So I'm pretty proud of myself. It was actually quite challenging. But yeah, man, that game's super cool. I can't believe I slept on that game. And like I said, if Gears and XCOM had a baby, it would be Gears Tactics, and that's all I need to say. That's if you haven't played either of those games, go play each of those games individually. And if you want a combination of the two, check out Gears Tactics. I think it's on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, just pop it on in when you're feeling strategic.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Same as Andre, still working through Metaphor. Fantastic.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a month or two.
Yeah. So I won't talk your ear off because I have been playing the same thing I did last week. I've been replaying Civ 6 because I can't afford to jump into 7 yet, and with everything going on with that game right now, like I'm fine waiting. Maybe during that 4X sale that Steam was talking about, I may pick it up then. Other than that, I've been kind of like going back to a like comfort game lately, just with like some spare time that I get. I've been replaying Game Dev Tycoon. I love those kind of like tycoon games and time management games and like resource management games. And that was one of my favorites, just to like throw in games that I know of in the industry, like put the name in there and try to recreate it kind of thing. A lot of people have been doing that for a while. There's like a mobile version as well. I've been seeing people post about, but it just kind of like popped back into my head and I just felt like some crazy comfort stuff. So I've been doing that when I'm not getting crushed by Metaphor emotionally. So that's all I've got going on. What are we doing, Ace?
Yeah, like, I've been playing a little bit of the First Descendant, because there's just been a pretty steady stream of updates being added to the game, just more quality of life improvements. But other than that, dipping back into God Eater 3. Oh, excuse me. Dipping back into God Eater 3, playing a bit more Freedom Wars Remastered, but the lion's share of my time has been taken up with Warriors Abyss, and wow.
It's one of those games.
The surprise of no one on the panel.
I'm assuming it's one of those games you log on, you just play for a couple hours, and you log off, turn off the brain, and just play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
good. It's definitely a good it's a good pick up and go game. I managed to get my first clear on it a couple nights ago, and I for the folks that might actually be interested in my review of the game, because I was Koei Tecmo US was actually gracious enough to pop me over a review code for it. If you want to check out my review, it's a little 20-minute clip I put up. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on it's on Twitch as well, and it's going to be up there permanently. It's not going to disappear after like 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Twitch. Well, I guess you got to make space for the other stuff. But I actually watched that review video earlier today, and I was like, oh, this is super cool. Like, I mean, it's valued at $29.99, right? Like that's the asking price for the game.
25.
20 even better. So $25 for a pick up and play, kind of turn off your brain, play it for a while, then go about your day kind of thing. That's super cool. I feel like Dynasty Warriors, and it's also a mix of Samurai Warriors characters too, right?
Yep, it's pretty much what if Warriors Orochi, but Hades.
Ah, gotcha. Makes sense.
And also a tiny bit of news on that front: the first of the free character drops is going to be coming on the 25th.
Ooh, free characters. Are there paid characters now?
No, all the characters in the game, all 100 of them.
All 100 of them.
Yeah. They're just they're right in there, so you can just play through and unlock them.
My first question is, can you pick Lubu?
Yes, and Lubu is a menace.
Buying it tomorrow. You just press one button, everybody dies. Got it.
I mean, you'll have to play through and unlock him, of course.
Yeah,
but Lubu is a straight up terror.
As long as he's there, I'm good. Real quick, I did get into the beta version of Elden Ring Night Rain over the weekend.
Yeah.
You did mention that.
Yeah, it was a weird, like, the schedule on it was like you can only play from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. right? And I was like busy all weekend, and I ended up only playing around on Sunday night at 7 to 10. Only had 2 rounds in. I think everybody was already worn out from the beta. It was just stress testing the servers, right? But boy, it is I call it Elden Ring light. If you are like intimidated by Souls games, this is the game that you should start with to like get a feel for the gameplay. Not necessarily the game itself, but the gameplay. It's focusing on combat, right? And that's one of those things. If you like this game, you may like the other games as well, because it's now open world and a bigger game. This is a very small enclosed BR, literally a BR, a PvE 3-man team. You go into this enclosed land, of course, with the ring of fire closing in on you. There are 3 days. It goes day 1, night 1, day 2, night 2, and the 3 is night 3, which is like the final boss fight. Mm-hmm. And your whole job from day 1 and day 2. Actually, let's start with day 1. Day 1, you pretty much land and you scour and fight the mobs and grab all the gear you can before that ring gets into that small section where you fight a mini boss, right? You and your team. Now, it helps that if your team is balanced, not everybody's a mage, not everybody's this, right? Because not everybody has kind of a role, right? Because the game I played, it was me, which was the tank, and then 2 mages in the game, and they died almost immediately when we landed. which I saved. I managed to save them by hitting them. You can resurrect them, right? Mm-hmm. But by the time we got to the boss, they got 1-shotted and I got 2-shotted. So which means we didn't do a very good job on on day 1 to even fight the night 1 boss. So there is a little bit of like, I thought like Souls players can like barrage to this game and have it super easy. But there's also RNG involved. So by the time, because you can like open up treasure chests and kill monsters, mini bosses, you may get some garbage as your drops. Right. So when you get to that mini boss in night 1, you may have like, oh man, I'm struggling here because I only got these drops. Right. So I'm going to have my other teammates kind of like carry the weight for me because my drops are bad, or vice versa. Right. And day 2 is like another chance at that. And day 3, it's just a straight boss fight where it's like an extra level hard boss. Like the boss that was featured in this one was a 3-headed wolf, like Cerberus. Okay. Right. But it was like a fox. And then by the time when you get him to half-life, he splits into 3 bigger wolves. So it was like a nightmare. It was rough. Yeah. Like when we saw that, we were like, okay, we're just dead. We're not going to be able to do this. But yeah, it's one of those games where I feel like it is difficult, but it's like they did a good job of containing that difficulty into a BR, because it's about mastery. It's not about like the amount of you play. It's about getting good every time. Literally, this is getting good the game with a little bit of RNG in it, because you're not guaranteed to drop that purple sword, in day 1 and day 2. You might end up in day 3 with a common sword, right? But your allies might have something good, right? So that's the portion that makes the game a little bit more chaotic. But yeah, I recommend it. I think it's only sold for $29.99. It's good value for what it is. Depending on the content, it may be content light. That's the big kind of scare right now. What's going to be in this game? Are there other IPs that will be joining this game? I actually filled out the feedback today. And I told him, like, this could be your Fortnite for Dark Souls. And I don't mean putting Ryu in this game. I mean, like, getting Bloodborne in here, getting Lords of the Fallen in here, getting people from, like, The Surge, all these Dark Souls, like Neo, right? Getting Sekiro, getting all these games in one place to celebrate, like, this type of gameplay with your friends. Because there's nothing better than playing Dark Souls games with a buddy. It makes the games sounds easier, because that's just my experience. But yourself, it's a little bit more intimidating, but with a friend, it helps a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
And then this game really takes that like multiplayer co-op experience and makes it like and focuses on the best parts of playing co-op with your buddy. Right. And this is the game for that. Now, that's not for you. I don't think this game will be for you at all, especially if you don't like Souls-like controls and combat systems. But On a lighter note, they did improve on the mobility and the stamina, like regeneration. So you don't feel like you're having to be bogged down by that stamina as much as the other games. And also, when you level up automatically by touching a bonfire or a grace, and the stats are scaled depending on which class you're at. So if you're a magician, you're going to get more stats and stamina and magic, than strength. So it scales by your class. So it's super mainstream and streamlined. I think it's going to be cool. But like I said, the big concern is content, because after like a few rounds and you're like, "Are you seen everything already? Now what?" Right? Did I just waste $30 because I got like 2 hours of it? Right? Hopefully there is another map, but it is a beta, so I don't know if it's 100%. There's only 4 classes in the beta. I think there was 8 announced or more. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and thank you for Namco for hooking me up with the beta. It was a really good experience for the little time I played it. So awesome! All right, So, do we have anything else on the agenda as far as you guys want to add? I know we had to cover a lot tonight, and I always love covering a bunch of content. But anything we missed? I do want to add something that Nick talked about earlier.
No, I got nothing new.
Okay.
Nothing on this end.
I think what I wanted to say to those that are watching, Nick mentioned that like it was great for Sega to put their game on, Game Pass and Xbox, right? And the console wars is officially dead. Like and here's the thing: I don't think there's a clear winner. I mean, a lot of people argue Sony, but I think like I believe that we as gamers we would lose if one wins all the time, right? We would get lesser quality games like this because competition feeds innovation. If there's no competition, there's no need to try hard. Okay. But going back to what Nick said, I'm glad that more people have exposed themselves. That sounds terrible. To
Clip it right there.
Yakuza and the Like a Dragon series, right? And all it took was for them to get on Xbox, right? Because it was locked into the PlayStation 2 and PS3, whatever. But now the Xbox had, and you said it grew, right? While it was on Xbox, like the feedback and like the fan base grew from being on another platform. And I think that's like when I was a kid, I think like the console wars were really fun, right? It's good to have these little like, "Oh, my system's better than yours," and we poke fun at each other. But like, I think now as a consumer, like as an adult, I think it's good that like the developers are winning, right? Not the console makers. If more people get to play their game, I think that's better. And and then we're talking about growth, like in video game design and just a video game consumer. To me, I feel like that's where I grew. Is where before I was like loyal to like the system. I bought a Sony PlayStation because the N64 like kind of disappointed me after waiting for so long, right? And I waited for Final Fantasy 64. Then it was released as Final Fantasy 7 on PlayStation. So I was really hurt by Nintendo during that time in my life. But it was just really nice to hear from Nick, and that Yakuza has been, like I said, more people are playing it right now. More people know about it, and I love that for Sega. And I wish them more. And I think this is why we're getting games like a Pirate in Hawaii, because like more people are aware, and they're like, this game is insane. This game is fun. So they have more motivation to create a game like that and to kind of go farther than their comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
So
that's not always going to be one-to-one with all those dev studios out there, but it's a good example of when it works, what it can do for a team. Because when they started getting that money, they brought something like Ishin over, like we were talking about before, which is a little more niche, doesn't have as big of a following, did well enough, but wasn't something new. It was more so it's like, hey, here's this thing that was only available in one region. We'll bring it out because now it's popular over here. Great. Wonderful. But now those teams are getting more money as well. Ace, on that same thought. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
Oh yeah. No.
Just on that same thought of just now those teams are getting the funding and the opportunity to expand and build better games. I mean, the fact that Ichiban Stories becomes so big now, Infinite Wealth has done so well, and now early reviews for Pirate Yakuza are really positive. It's like they're getting the chance to improve these kind of games. They're getting the runway that they may have not gotten before. And Phil Spencer kind of talked about that. If you get a chance to listen to the Reset Era thing, he kind of quoted the same thing that you just said, James. His idea was, see if I can find the quote specifically. The big thing was, essentially, I'm just going to paraphrase here. They're not trying to get everyone over to Xbox anymore. So he said, I found the quote. I'm not trying to move them all over to Xbox anymore, added Spencer. So that last quote is really, he's not trying to bring everyone to Xbox, but trying to make sure that the games that they have are available to everyone else, no matter what platform, whether
have
they
an Xbox,
prefer the control or whether they have PC, with cloud gaming and everything. Like, that's better for Indiana Jones. That's better for, Team Ninja. That's better for Obsidian. That's better for all of these devs, that it's not tied to Xbox specifically. The other side of that being, like, there's no more like exclusivity. So why do I own my Xbox? There's still gonna be reasons, but like you said, the console wars as we know them are over, essentially. Like those two big, back and forth, Sony, Microsoft. But it's in a different form now. It's just a different way. These games are from these developers are going to be available to more people moving forward. So I think, like you said, it's a net positive, especially if that means that the funding that Microsoft or Xbox is able to put back into these dev studios improves the games in the future for them as well. It's not going to be something like Hi-Fi Rush, where it released and they, cut the team away. Or it will be something like a game releases like the next Setsuna's, like when Setsuna 2 came out, like an incredible experience for what it is, but it didn't sell enough to really set the cost aside, right? Like, that was expensive to make that, and it was basically like an experiential game that's like 5 hours. Like, it's hard to get that, adjusted. So if they got a chance to play that on other consoles, they got more people willing to buy that and experience those things and improve them. Like, that can only mean good things for the teams under the umbrella.
Yeah, and like I said, I love the way they're more like dev friendly, and like we just want more people playing your games. It's like that's their attitude, right? And I'm glad that like they've kind of taken that direction versus like trying to catch up with Sony. They're like approaching it from a different angle, right? Because they're still competing regardless, but their approach to it is different, and I can see that where they're coming from, and I respect that. But yeah,
you could almost call it, platform agnostic.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they're always going to want you to play on an Xbox. It gives them reason to buy a console, right? Because we know that they buy these consoles or make these consoles at a loss, and they make up for the games. Like, we know that. So,
and we know that Games Pass is incredibly profitable still.
Yeah,
like it just is. And if you can imagine having a Game Pass subscription still that lets you access them on these other consoles, not just because you can already do that with like their Ultimate PC bundle, where you can play it on PC and Xbox. And if there's a title that has cross saves, you can do that. You can just pop between the two. I've done that here at home. So the fact that you would be able to then potentially bring it to these other things, great. The tricky thing is just not every console has the same like setup or the same settings. It can be a little bit different. There's probably going to be some growing pains, but I mean, Sony is essentially the only one fighting the war anymore. Nintendo just does whatever Nintendo does. Whatever works for them. They make plenty of money.
The only competition Nintendo has is themselves, pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, I got something to say to Phil Spencer and what they got to do, and I always got to play this at least once in each stream.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good job, Xbox. Appreciate that. But yeah, and just like that, guys, we are at the end of our 20th episode, a milestone session, of course, a legendary run, or however game terminology you guys want to use. But it's just proof that we're just getting started, and we got more to come. Like, we talked about the run and gun pioneers like Contra and the Ikari Warriors tonight. Ace dropping more knowledge on the tech, and of course, speaking of knowledge, like Nick giving us more knowledge of the game industry and kind of the changes. And I learned something tonight about Microsoft, and kind of had this epiphany of like, man, the console wars are over, and the consumer's winning. And that's where it's all about, because, we here at the show, we want to make sure, like we said, giving you guys value for your time and providing you much, much knowledge for, as a consumer and as somebody that's, enjoying a hobby like this, but this is the one where we're stopping, right? There's more to come in the Gaming Academy, and we're going to keep rolling out these episodes. Make sure to follow, subscribe, get locked in for what's coming next. Of course, follow Ace on his channel as well. If you want more in-depth, content for what he talks about, it's all over. It's there every day. I think you stream like 6 days a week, right?
5.
5 days a week. Yeah, that's a full-time job for this man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell your friends so we can chat with everyone. We love hearing those stories.
Yeah, and we're on Facebook now. So if you're on a Facebook app, you feel free to watch us on there as well. Do all the things. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop a comment. Tell us your favorite run and gun game. If it was Contra, Metal Slug, or hell, even Cuphead, the anti-journalist game. So let us know. Big shout out to everyone in the chat. Ghost, Top Shop. We've got a new person in the chat too as well, including Andre was there. Who was that guy? Like Aku Gaming or something? Yeah, TTVA Kun Gaming. I hope I said that right. My bad. Anyone, shout out to those guys. Whether you're dropping knowledge or sharing memories or just vibing with us, we appreciate you being here. You make this a community what it is. But for now, we got to get some rest because we did a little bit over, and we'll catch you during the next time. Same academy, same hype, but new adventures. And until then, keep gaming, stay legendary, and we'll see you in Class 21 next week at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right? Y'all have a good night. Appreciate y'all.
Class dismissed.